Okay. Dun da na da na 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 na. I said, welcome on in to the Caffeinated Creators podcast. Welcome on in. Da na 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 na. It wasn't as cool as the first.
It wasn't
yeah.
as cool.
It wasn't as cool as
you
the
know
first
what?
one.
It's
No.
not even your fault.
No.
It's not even your fault.
It was not your fault.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It was
It's
partially
okay.
my fault.
Today's a
What-
different day.
What
It is
we'll-
a different day.
What we'll
Today is a
actually
different
do is we'll just go through the replay and just screen
Yeah,
record
yeah.
it.
Yep.
Yeah,
There we go.
That's
Easy.
better.
What's going on, Aiden?
I like that take a lot more.
Well, guys, welcome on back to the 6th CC Podcast episode.
Yes.
Glad,
Since we have a guest here, do we want a quick run through everybody?
Yeah, sure. Let's start at the usual side. We always start from our main buddy here. So starting from on our far left, right,
It's the one and only Glitch Penguin.
and your amazing crowd gamer, Fallen Wolf.
Your fellow jammer, JamminJoey.
And Silver Zambi.
And big round of applause for JamminJoey all the way from California.
Yes.
He's joining
Yes.
us today in
Pretty
our
awesome, honestly.
6th episode of
Yep.
the CC podcast today.
It's
Yeah.
honestly, it's kind of crazy to think that it's already episode 6.
I know.
It really is kind of crazy to think.
Yeah.
It's gone by really fast, and we finally have the first 5 episodes up.
Yep,
This is going to be the 6th one that's going to be up there on Spotify, as well as I always forget the name of that.
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts, and then there's one more.
Anchor.
Anchor, yes.
Yes.
We're going to be reaching out on more platforms soon, but for right now, we got the big ones covered. So that's, again, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor. We'll be reaching out to more places soon. But if you want to go watch the audio version, you can go do it at all your favorite popular platforms. And we'll have the rest of the seasons up on YouTube very shortly soon.
Yes.
It's
Make
a
sure
little
you
bit of a longer
go-
process for the videos.
Make
So.
sure you go watch your audio platforms.
And as well, for any of you audio listeners out there, make sure you guys pop in and listen and watch the live stream on caffeine.tv/caffeinated creators.
Hey.
You guys
Yes.
can see behind the scenes, up face in front. You see 4 men sitting in a chair. One chair, all 4 in one chair.
All 4. Yeah,
Yep.
we're just stacked on top of each other right now.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty much how it
Yes.
works.
If you are not watching right now, that is what I want you to picture while we are talking.
4
Just
men.
4 men,
4
one
men.
chair.
One
All
chair,
stacked.
all stacked on top of each other. However
Is
you
that a
imagine
viral
it,
video?
whether we're sitting on each other's laps, we might be sitting like head to ass, like completely on top
Like
of one another's
stacking?
head.
Yeah. I think it's more of like a stacking.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
We're each
Forget
stacked
throw
on,
shoulders out the window.
No.
We're stacked head on ass.
It's like
Yes.
butt
Ass
head.
to
Butt
head.
head.
Yes.
Butt head. Yeah.
all right. Now
We
that
all-
we got that out of the way,
We
totem
all have
pole.
incredibly
Yeah, there we go.
strong necks.
It's not. It's not Jenga. It's totem pole.
Yeah,
There you go,
basically,
there you go.
basically. But yeah,
Guys.
I'm happy to be here,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you so
Thanks-
much
Thanks for having
for
me here on the
popping
6th
in
one.
here.
I'm really excited to be here.
How was your trip from California to Wisconsin?
Wasn't too bad. Very smooth. Unfortunately, my girlfriend got patted down pretty hard on TSA. They
Oh.
just pulled her off to the side, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna pat you down," and they just kind of prolonged that and made it a little bit longer than it needed to be. She didn't have anything on her,
I mean,
so
she's a lethal weapon, man. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, she is.
Gotta love that TSA just being just a complete violation of
They
personal.
always-
Yeah. That was exactly.
It's
how
always,
it
it's
felt.
with the most unsuspecting people too. Like
I've heard in the past that TSA does it at random. Like they
yeah,
have a
absolutely.
number counter or whatever, and then after a certain amount of people, they'll like just pick someone out of the crowd to be like, "Hey, you're up next. We're gonna give you the old pat down."
I mean, honestly, and if there's nothing going on, it's probably the best way to do it because you're not sitting there,
just twiddling your thumbs or something.
Yeah.
You're trying to stay proactive.
Right.
But really, it's really annoying though.
But hey, at least
At least you're here.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
At least you didn't
yeah,
get held
yeah.
back on the plane or anything.
Yeah, that would've
waited
sucked.
on your flight or anything.
Yeah, because I think previous flights you've had a little bit more of a rocky road getting.
Yeah,
here even.
yeah. Or at least the one of the last times that I was here, I missed my flight back to California for those
Yes.
delicious,
Yeah,
lovely
what was it for?
cheese
Yeah.
curds. It was the Wisconsin cheese curds.
You missed it because of cheese curds.
Yeah, because of cheese curds, 100%. We were on our way, and I said we need to stop at Culver's. We need to get some cheese curds. The line was about a half hour long. I said, I don't care. I want some cheese curds. We got the cheese curds. They were great. They were great cheese curds. But I did miss my flight on the way back.
About like 20 minutes. It was like a 20-minute miss.
Yeah.
Because you went inside, right? You went inside to the airport.
Yeah. I went inside, talked to them, and they're like, "Yeah, you're definitely like 20 minutes too late to get on this flight."
There was one time I was going to Florida, and they had the gate was open still, and like the plane, they almost had the plane shut down, and I walked in right at like the last minute, and I'm like, and everybody was already on the plane, and when I walked onto the plane, everybody was already in their seats, their luggage tucked, and I just was like the one guy walking on late, and I'm like,
This
"Hey
guy.
everyone, I guess I'll do it."
Did you get any dirty looks? Because
You
like,
had to.
like
No,
you were the one
I
holding
didn't.
it
I
up?
didn't get any dirty looks because I had one of the first class seats, so I was right at the front of the
there you
plane.
go.
Okay.
Yep. So I
Yeah.
sat down
You
in my
looked
big
important.
comfy chair.
Yeah, you looked important.
Yeah.
Then,
I saw my sunglasses on, and I was like, plopped down. I'm like, all right, I'm ready.
You know what I don't understand? Why don't they put the people that are in the back part of the plane on first,
right.
and then the first class last? I feel like that would make more sense. That's less time for first class to need to be on the plane. It would make sense to put them in the back first, then work
Yeah,
forward.
but first
So-
class has the comfy seats. They can sit in those that shit longer.
That's
It's-
true.
it's
There's
better
an
than the-
answer to your question,
Okay,
Joey.
I'm ready.
Mythbusters back in the day took that theory where it would make more sense to fill from the back to the front, and they found out that the most effective way to filling is actually this crazy method where it's like certain seats.
Isn't it the outside seats in?
Well, that was one of the theories that they tested.
I remember exactly what episode.
They actually found it was some weird thing where they like you throw a couple in the back, then a couple in the front, then a couple in the back. It was like this weird like stagger path is actually the fastest method for like filling an airplane. But the least efficient way is actually what they do currently, which is front to back.
Front to back. Yeah.
and that is
that's-
the least efficient way
efficient
that happens right now.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's to create time. Like
I don't know.
Intentional time break, right?
I don't know.
Because like I feel like one of the most on time like presence is airports.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
airports
It's like you gotta be there.
there's literally like 5 planes coming in and out every 10 minutes. You know what I mean? They're all flying out all over the
I
place.
mean,
I may not be. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot about like one thing necessarily.
well, so to talk about the whole like adding time thing, would they not just kind of use it to kill time as they're like putting everything luggage in the plane?
Well, so that's where the inefficiency comes in is when people are putting their like
yeah.
their
Yeah,
their
well,
shit up
that's
at the
the
top.
problem.
I mean, that's the carry-ons, but I'm talking like the loading the checked
the
bags.
undercarriage, you're saying?
Yeah, the checked bags and all that.
I don't know. Honestly, in the episode that they did, I actually don't think that they like took that into account with how long it takes to actually fill.
I feel like
the
it's a
plane
lot
up.
faster.
I would say because like okay, I don't know about you, but I have you ever been like sitting on the side of the plane where you can actually see them filling
yeah,
up?
yeah, you can see them like
Yeah,
it's
and like
literally-
normally
it's a
that's
conveyor
done
belt.
pretty quick.
It's a
quick.
conveyor
Yeah.
belt of
Yeah.
just like moving stuff onto it. It just like goes in.
Yeah,
I feel like the biggest
it's not
problem
like
is getting on the plane, and then there's somebody who's right in front of you putting their luggage up, but you have to get past them,
You
and
have
you
to
just
wait.
have to sit
you
there
just
and wait.
you just wait.
You
You
just
are
wait.
you are at the mercy of how long it takes for people to get their shit
Yeah.
figured out in the
Which
plane.
I mean, to be fair, like people have to get settled. They want to get everything ready to go, like everything out of their bag that they're gonna have while they're there, and then they sit down because they don't want to get
Commercial airlines kind of suck, dude. It's crazy to think about how like I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, dude, that like flying on a
It
commercial
was,
airline,
it was like a bus.
a bougie ass
Yeah.
experience.
It was
Yeah.
like being on a
Yeah.
bus.
And
You
nowadays
could
it's-
smoke.
Yeah,
Yep.
You could
Fucking
drink.
smoke on
you
an
could
airplane,
You could
dude,
do whatever
like-
you wanted on an airplane back
Yep.
in the day.
you could
Also
fucking
with,
get
like,
wasted.
all the
Like,
condors that were up in the air, the supersonic,
and it was
air
four.
flights
It was
that were there,
4 a
too.
row. They used to do 4 a
Yeah.
row, and now it's like 4 per side. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was you had all the space in the world to spread out and do whatever the hell you needed. You know.
You know,
I mean,
they figured out how to jam people in there that was like up to safety
Prices.
standards so they could make more money
Yeah.
Yeah.
per
yeah.
flight.
Well, I mean,
Right.
and also with like the cost of fuel going up, they have to get more people on to make the fuel worth it. All
Yeah.
that
Right.
kind of stuff.
That makes me wonder. Have you ever thought about that? Do you think that they take into account? They look at their itinerary of who's going to be on a plane and they add more fuel accordingly. Do you think that ever happens?
Well, that's why they require you to be under a certain weight limit for your luggage because their fuel accounts for how much weight that
And
they're
do you
flying.
think they already calculate that into like?
I think
into
there's
the-
probably a plus or minus variance that they overfill probably regardless. But yes,
I was gonna say I remember one time we were flying and my dad was going to move seats because there was an open seat next to my mom and we weren't all together. We were kind of scattered.
Sure.
And when he went to go sit up by her, the flight attendant was like, well, you can't do that. We already balanced the plane. We already took into account everybody's weight, and this is exactly what we're going, you can't mess that up. So they definitely do some type of calculation to account everybody's weight.
I don't know if you knew this, but there's like probably in the ballpark of like 14 different chambers on a plane that fuel can be moved around to, like, let's say hypothetically, like an engine goes out and more thrust is being created on one side, and let's say if they were to like distribute the weight better, it would have better aerodynamics. They have the ability to pump fuel from other sections of the plane into different sections to be able to counteract that. So
I didn't know that.
That's exactly what you're talking about, is like they had it balanced out. Which, I mean, let's be honest, it probably wouldn't ever do that much, but who knows? You never know.
All right. I want to switch topics real quick because I'm super excited about this one.
Right.
I want to, before we jump into this, I just want everyone's personal opinion so far. Do we think that Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard is a good thing or a bad thing?
So I had a little bit of a discussion with some coworkers today about this, and honestly, they brought up like a thing that I didn't even think about, but like they brought up as a joke, but also definitely a possibility. Imagine now playing WoW on an Xbox.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Do you would you still have to buy all the expansions?
Well,
100%.
Yeah,
here's the thing: like the expansions you still buy, but the thing is, what he brought up was the concept of no longer a subscription base, but it's on the Game Pass.
Yeah, it'll be on the Game Pass. Yeah, everything for WoW, WoW is gonna be on Game Pass now.
That's a big thing, though. Like, imagine having to make that contract with another company. Like, hey, we know that you make a lot of money off this, but we're gonna move that on to our subscription base.
That's the whole goal of ultimately what's going on is Microsoft is trying to make their Game Pass and Xbox and PC gaming better for themselves.
Themselves.
Windows game.
Yes, not necessarily for the consumer.
No,
because you're still gonna have to subscribe to Game Pass if you want all your WoW expansions, but it's gonna be better for them. But ultimately, when we're talking about how, because we all know Activision Blizzard are on a downturn. Like they're on their COD player base, WoW subscriptions, and popularity amongst that company, and even their stock price, their share, everything involving those two companies has been in a steady downtrend, a slow downtrend for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Especially with all of the inner workings and lawsuits that they've had.
The ridiculous amount of lawsuits that they've been doing. I mean,
and their terrible workplace experience.
Right? Yeah. I
mean, let's be honest. How can you blame a company that literally created the idea of how Call of Duty gaming even is? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They literally people wonder why the notation of how people react with like COD gaming is, and it literally just comes down to the company that ran it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like exactly what it was.
So before we get too into it, do you think ultimately, in a grand scheme of things, whether it's for consumer themselves or whatever, are you excited about it? Do you think it's going to be a good thing, or do you think it's going to be a bad thing?
Personally, it will not affect me because this doesn't affect any games besides COD that I partake in.
Yeah.
But I think overall, it'll be a nice change of pace because... Like, as I'm not one who has a Game Pass, but I think the idea of the Game Pass is great.
It's really cool, yeah.
Honestly, really cool to like pay a monthly subscription, because the thing is.
So are you leaning more onto you think it's going to be a better thing? And I mean ultimately for consumers, for somebody us.
I think it'll be good for consumers simply because it gives more for what you're already paying for. I don't think they're going to bump up the Game Pass subscription. I think they're just literally going to offer more. They could. They definitely could.
Netflix is going up.
Imagine being somebody like me who has Game Pass but would never buy anything for WoW, right?
Right. And now you're going to have access to that.
Now you have access.
I can go play WoW.
Now you have access to all of that.
For the price of what you would consider on your end free.
Right. Pretty damn near. Yeah.
When normally the price of WoW is probably in the ballpark, just to get the subscription for a year is probably like $60 to $100. I don't know what the actual price is, so that's just ballpark. Each expansion's $30 plus $20. Who knows? Like,
right.
You're literally looking at like $150 to $200 investment that you're going to be able to get for $5, $10 a month.
Yep.
I think Game Pass is really great because my cousin used to always do GameFly, the one that would ship games to you. Mm-hmm. And I remember back then saying, like, if I could just have one where I could just download the games rather than get them shipped to me, that'd be great. Of course, Game Pass came out years later, but that is essentially that.
Well, same with EA Access. If you guys remember the EA Vault, where it was a very select.
Well,
games, but it was
now
the
that's
same
part of
idea.
Steam. That's part of Steam.
I was gonna
now.
say, yeah, now it's officially
Because
part of
Origins
Steam.
is starting to realize, wow, our platform really isn't that good.
yeah.
Come on,
So
where's
Joey,
it?
what do you
Ubisoft,
think?
bring
so,
it over.
similar to what Mike said, it doesn't really affect me like directly, but I personally have to say I think it is probably going to be a beneficial thing for the community in the sense that I felt like Blizzard was kind of on a downfall, and that's why they joined in with Activision. And now that they're both still kind of on this downfall and they're not really going in the best direction, Microsoft has at least done a good job in showing that they do want some of the console exclusives on PC. So I feel like this is a good way to bring some PC exclusives now to console players that maybe don't have the money to buy a PC or that setup. So I think beneficially wise, it would be more beneficial for all of them. Although I am not really interested in doing that,
Right.
but I admire and respect its move.
Alrighty, Justin.
Honestly, all in all, when it comes to the way that, like, when you think about the two companies merging together, because the way I think of, like, Blizzard on a personal note is I think of Overwatch. Like, Overwatch and Hearthstone is, like, what I normally see. And, like, obviously, you know World of Warcraft is a big part of Blizzard. But when I see that, I think of, Overwatch and mostly that. And, I haven't really played Call of Duty like I used to anymore. And it doesn't really hit home in that way.
But also to talk about that, now they've gotten rid of yearly releases.
Which
Well,
I'm really
I don't-
happy about.
Yeah.
Is that
I mean,
confirmed or is that
Duty?
rumored?
Yeah.
That's solidified. They are done doing yearly releases.
Okay.
For Call of
Yep.
Duty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
They are-
thank
they are
God.
no
It's
longer
about
gonna do
fucking
that.
Yeah,
time.
thank
I mean,
God.
they've been making
Dude.
the mistake for 5 years now.
Yeah.
It honestly, I think, started after Modern Warfare 3 or Black Ops 2.
It was Black Ops 4 was when it started.
The year
Black Ops 4 was whereas it really, like, it showed
Yeah.
that they don't have enough time to
Yeah.
make the game proper because
Well, they're always releasing
On-
unfinished products.
Yeah.
And,
On-
we'll throw in more content and update.
The-
A couple updates later, we're
I was
going
gonna
to add
say
a new game
on
mode.
that same note, we were playing Black Ops 3 not that long ago, and we had an update. Why are they updating Black Ops 3 when all of these Call of Duties are way up past it? Why are they still going? Because
They're spreading
get
all
that,
their
yeah.
all
they're
their teams
assets,
among all these
all
games.
these places, versus just hyper focusing and making one good solid game that
Yeah.
people can
Literally,
really enjoy.
All it is for them is that Warzone is the biggest moneymaker that they've had
Yes.
probably in, like, I don't even know how many years. It had to have been a lot of time because I don't even remember the last time Call of Duty was anywhere in regard. The only thing I can think of is Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 is the last time Call of Duty was ever highly esteemed with, like, very good budget, extreme, like, amazing advertising, and, like, all of those things all included.
And a good game.
Yeah,
And a good
It
game.
was
an
a
actual
game.
good
Yeah.
finished game.
I will
I
say-
actually, and I was out of COD for like quite a while.
There's no reason to
World
be
War
in it.
II. World War II was my last COD game that I was like really into until
Cold War.
no,
Modern
not
Warfare.
before Modern Warfare.
the re-
And-
the,
and-
the
and-
redone.
Yeah, and that was that. I was like, damn, this is actually it's a fresh take on Call of Duty, and
Duty?
it's a great game.
It was their best shot that they had at trying to make money, and that's why Warzone was so thriving on it, because it's an amazing engine. It has, like, amazing roots, and unfortunately, they just, like, I think what they did with going from, like, Cold War and Vanguard and kind of mashing those three together for, like, Warzone and stuff like that was neat, but at the same time, it was kind of like an empty call. Like, they knew that they were only going to be able to go so far with it.
Yeah, but I did think it was a good idea because there were times, although I'm not much of a COD player, there were times when I'd open up Cold War like 5 times that I did, and I would see Warzone,
Yeah.
and it did make me want to, like, pop it open just because it was right there and I could see it, even though I didn't play it.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it was sitting right there on the screen. It did catch my eye and make me kind of want to play it.
I will say though, it's getting a bit ridiculous now to open up one of those COD games and
Oh
see
my
4
God,
different
Yeah.
menus.
The panels, dude. The
Yeah.
panels. And, like, the thing is it's the worst way you could open up that game, too. Like, if I wanted to play that game,
I would
go
open
play
that
it
game.
and open it. But I don't need you to tell me Vanguard came out. Click right here and
Hell,
you can buy it.
I had,
It's like,
I had a recent
cool,
panic
but-
attack when I was navigating the menus because I clicked back into the game and I accidentally clicked multiplayer for Cold War when
Oh,
I'm trying to
man.
play Modern Warfare, and I'm like, whoa, no, don't close the game, don't open up a new one. I don't want this.
Mm.
Yeah.
I just
I think it's just like a select amount. You know, when you open up a game, normally you
the
see
newest game. Do the newest newest game.
Yeah,
Don't do the last three.
Yeah. Like you see campaign, multiplayer, and maybe zombies or something. You got
I like
three
that idea.
selections.
Okay, Josh has got a good idea because
Yes.
the thing is
Default menu.
in Black Ops 1 and 2, you could default.
For our audio listeners, read what
He said there should be a pick default menu to load into. And in especially Black Ops 2, I remember there was a choosing to load into a default. So you would load into the basic menu, you could load into the zombies menu, or you could load into the multiplayer menu as soon as you started the game.
Yeah, and that is where I think that's perfect. That's great. It gives you the option. You can still have the whole game, but then you decide exactly what you're looking for.
Okay, hold on real quick because I actually want to make a little comment about this, Darian. So I sent a message in here saying that in all good information, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links has more players than BF 2042. I literally was just playing the game because I still enjoyed it, but I'm going to be honest. I tried playing it. I got into a conquest match, and I would like to remind everyone it's 64 v 64.
Yep.
I went into a match, and it was 14 v 14.
Oh, my God.
Really?
Yeah,
and
it was
like,
dead.
It was like 7 o'clock. It was
like midday.
Prime gaming time.
Prime
gaming time. Yeah,
and it was 14 v 14.
And what game was this again?
That was Battlefield 2042, and it was like a basic conquest match, and like maybe it was because of the game mode I chose, but in particular, it's not even that. Everyone wasn't even jets. Everyone's running around and shit. It's unfortunate because the game had reason to be fun, but they had so much more reason for no one to give a shit about it because they fucked it. They fucked up.
I was gonna say there were
It
a
doesn't
lot
even have
of
a scoreboard
glitches.
yet.
So
It still doesn't have a scoreboard.
Nope.
So how do you
Battlefield took out of COD's thing and released it when it was unfinished.
I mean, and to expand on what you're saying here, Chowder, saying that all FPS games are in a rough spot, you're not wrong. Every single game is in a rough spot. And like even Halo, I would say Halo has the best out of all of them because they have like such deep roots and people
the
actually
IP alone, just the IP, just having it named Halos.
And but here's the quick thing before you go too far into
I mean,
it.
that's really all I have to say about
the
it,
quick
is that
thing
Halo's
about
doing
Halo,
the best.
the difference between what Call of Duty and Battlefield have done versus what Halo is doing is at least Halo, they're saying this game is not done, this game is not finished, we have a 10-year long plan with this game. Where that is not what Call of Duty nor Battlefield. It's every day. It's every year. Where this is our 10-year game that we're trying to perfect.
Okay, so
that's different.
So Justin and I have very different views on the new Halo game, Halo Infinite, and I think this will be a good time to touch on it because I genuinely appreciate like the fact that like they're doing what they said. They are constantly updating that game. They've added like a plethora of game modes since the time it's released in beta when the Game Awards came on, and they have launched it on Game Awards and all that stuff. And I genuinely am a big Halo CE fan. Like that, like I like the multiplayer Halo CE. Go in, it's just like it is base game shooting, you get your guns and everything, and it's simple. It's simple. There isn't like all this crazy loadout bullshit. It is just you're gonna try to find your guns that you can get, and you're gonna do what you can. And I genuinely think that this Halo is a good take on what Halo really was. Now, Justin has a much different outlook.
Quite the opposite side of the spectrum.
So, like, the whole idea behind it is like I love Halo, and I'm really glad with what they did. But I'm gonna be honest. I feel like people are giving it too much credit because even though it is new and it is like respectively probably one of the better games that are even out right now. Like, fortunately, unfortunate to say that, but I think like the campaign for $60 was literally a crack shot. You get like
that's a cash grab. I'll agree. I'll agree with you on that.
Multiplayer was literally so not, and it was their first try at it, and I don't want to like go into it.
I will
too much.
never buy that until co-op is released, and honestly, it's on sale because I will not spend $60 on that campaign.
There's so many features that they missed out on doing. They tried to do new things, and they did do cool new things, but at the same time, it just didn't deliver in the way that it should have, given the past that Halo has. Like literally, the whole idea of Halo, not even like multiplayer is what we remember, but that's because it's so replayable. But campaign is something that is literally iconic to Halo. And for them to literally fuck the whole campaign, and to an extent, I heard the voice acting was really good because I haven't played it yet.
Yeah,
I heard the voice acting was really good and like everything felt comfortable and the storyline was cool. But I also heard that it was very mundane, very like broken.
Well,
when
it's
it came
it's very clear that they're focusing their efforts on multiplayer and not campaign.
And
well,
that's,
I'd like to get Joey's side because Joey's the only one here that's
Yeah.
actually played the campaign.
and beat it.
yeah, and I beat the campaign.
Yeah.
So somebody who has played and beat the campaign, I have to say the story was good. It wasn't like nothing to write home about, but I felt like it was a good story. I felt like the mechanics in the game that were already in multiplayer transferred to the campaign. It felt really good. It felt tight. The few complaints, the primary complaints that I have with the campaign is the lack of co-op and a lack of other couple key features.
Right.
Because, some of those magic moments where, with Halo, like, hey, come on over. We're going to beat the game on Legendary tonight, and
Exactly.
we're going to do that. So to have the game not have, co-op campaign right off
Right
the
off the bat,
right
yeah.
off the bat, that's a huge
should've
thing,
waited.
And one other thing I will say, in previous Halos, when we spent $60, that wasn't just the campaign.
That was the whole game.
We were buying the multiplayer with
Yeah.
it. So this obviously does not come with that, and it comes with some collectibles maybe that you can acquire through
It's just the
through.
skins that you get in the
I
campaign.
gave it a pretty low score for my knee-jerk reaction playing through, more like a 6 out of a 10. But I feel that a lot of that magic that Halo has in time will bring it back. I feel like my score can be raised up to a solid 8, 9, maybe even a 10 if all of those features
Right.
were in the game, and that's what I'm waiting
So-
for.
Do you, yeah, that's a,
Where's
that's a-
Halo 4?
Yeah,
where's
yeah.
where's
I
all of those
have-
things?
I have a statement that is probably a little bit of a hot take, but in time it seems that it's become relative to Battlefield 2042, but they released a game that wasn't finished and they're promising to release new content, but we're still waiting for it. And I
think
feel
I think a good
the
blat-
exact same way with
I
Battlefield.
think a good blanket statement for a lot of the states of where games are today is companies need to stop releasing unfinished
games.
products.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Well,
I will-
the thing, people get more impatient when you have the game released and they say, look, more is coming, rather than being just impatient for the game to come out at once.
Yes.
If you don't have the game yet, it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't have to sit there and be ready for it.
I
to
feel
come
like
out.
it's kind of a weird place because in the same token, we've also seen a lot of really good popular alpha and beta games come out
Yeah.
that
Right.
we just love. We're like, wow,
but
this
you
game...
want to know the crazy thing about that is not all those games that I feel like you're talking about that you're referencing right now are completely outside of the realm of anything that could be contributed as a AAA title.
Yes.
They're all indie developers, small publishers.
But
Yes.
they know what the people want.
But
They're
at
making the
least
games
I
that the
do
people
I
want.
do enjoy the idea of releasing something in its complete in some sense of like, this is the game, here it is. Do you like it?
And then
And if
maybe
you-
we'll change some things.
And
in the
maybe we'll
future.
change some things along the line. I think that's not a terrible God of War. Yeah, I think that's not a terrible motto. Actually, I'm kind of happy because then I feel like the community does have a little bit more say
Like-
in the game. But it's hard for us to know AAA title games now transitioning to that. That's not what we're normally used to.
What blows me away is the fact that these companies are releasing these unfinished products, and with how many new gamers there are, in the world right now, and how many more people are buying PCs and playing games and buying consoles and doing this, and how more widespread and like common the hobby of playing video games has gotten and everything. Like, it makes me feel like these companies, like, how are they not making enough money?
It
You
seems
know?
like they're slowing down.
Like they're not innovating, and it's like they don't have the money to be able to innovate. So are they
Yeah.
just stuck in their ways, or can they not innovate anymore? Is there nowhere else to go to innovate a new fun game? But then like I'll list off a couple random ones that Risk of Rain, Astroneer, 7 Days to Die,
Sea of Thieves.
all games that are made by they're all not triple title games, but they're released in a definitive ideal. This is the game, it's done.
And the game plays,
And it's
correct. It
and-
doesn't
and
have.
then they
and
release
people fucking
content.
love it, and then they add new content.
They add
in the past.
content without even hyping it up. They just have to
They
just come out with new content.
They
and
have
people
the
are
finished
excited
game
for it.
that doesn't need the new content, but they get it anyway.
What's the
Yes.
name of the game that Amazon released? That's a great example of
Uh,
what
New
we're talking
World.
about.
New World.
New World.
New
Dude,
World.
Yeah.
Good ideas.
It was an amazing game.
Great
until
ideas.
the end game. That's the only issue.
A
is the
good
end
game, but without it wasn't finished. They didn't
Yeah.
have everything worked out, and they were like, "We're gonna put this out there." And like, I wanted that to
It was
succeed.
great. It was a
because
good
there
game.
needs to be more competition in the
Yeah.
space right now.
Yeah, so I think that's kind
was
of
a
the
great
main
game.
thing is it needs to, when they release these games, there needs to be like a finalized kind of idea of the game, and it needs to be well polished off, so then people can play it, feel like they played from start to finish, and felt good about their game, and then they can add more content to an already semi-polished, finished game that exists.
Do you guys think that companies nowadays are looking at games and they like are very? It needs to have multiplayer. The game, if it doesn't have multiplayer, it won't. Because if we go back, like let's go back like 5 to 8 years, right? A lot of games that were releasing at that point still were very heavily. There's a lot of like story-based, non-multiplayer games.
There were
was-
story-based games
was
that
both
had
sides.
multiplayer as an option.
Exactly.
most
Right,
of the
it's an
time.
option. You could do
It was
co-op.
most-
It was
yeah,
it
it
was
was like
co-op.
co-op.
Co-op was
Or maybe a competitive multiplayer
Yeah,
that was
like-
really
Right.
light, but
Kind of
it
like what
wasn't
they did
expansive.
in,
You know,
what was that zombie game? The Last of Us had a multiplayer. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure, the
yeah.
PvP
And they had a
multiplayer that
PvP.
But
and-
there's been this. I feel like there's been this weird transition in games where like it's like we don't really want to do the story anymore. We just need some sort of multiplayer. But what's the multiplayer without some sort of
A
narrative
story, yeah,
for us to
Story,
want to be a
yeah,
part
to
of
be-
it?
to
Well-
be there. Yeah.
Because I can go shoot people in any fucking game
So,
I want.
The perfect,
right? Like
perfect example I have for that, Justin, Overwatch.
Yeah.
I always because
Yeah.
like Overwatch 2 when Overwatch 2 got announced, I was very happy to hear that they were going to have a campaign because I always said Overwatch itself, great game. If it had a story, I think it would
So,
be even more fantastic.
The only thing I have to say about Overwatch,
isn't there like a little story with?
There is, and there's
There's
plenty
lore
of
told.
videos, and there's plenty of like lore, and there's comic books.
Thanks, Jengar.
There's a lot. There's
Right.
a lot of stuff that was there beforehand, but Overwatch. And this is the other thing you have to think about too is Jeff Kaplan. He's not even with the Blizzard team
Right,
anymore,
yeah.
but he literally was a subsection from World of Warcraft that started working on Overwatch, and like there wasn't a lot of story to build off of because there wasn't a story. There wasn't any story.
No,
until
I
they
get
made
it.
So like I see where you're coming from, but that's why Overwatch 2 is going to be so amazing until it got fudged, and now it's literally like it's a pipe dream. It was literally it was a pipe dream ever since 2017.
For those of you guys that are in chat right now, I want to go ahead and you can list like 2 or 3 maybe of your all-time favorite story single player game. What was the last story game that you played that like left you going,
I know
wow,
what mine is. You know what
I know
mine was?
exactly what mine is.
Mine was Journey.
dude?
Dude, Journey was a
Great
good
game.
That was actually
Journey
a great
was
game.
my absolute last game that I bought, and I was like, I'm really happy I bought this.
Yeah, Journey, and it's crazy. Imagine we are talking about Journey, which literally doesn't have any vocal
There's no
narrative to it.
I was gonna
Nope.
say there's no vocals.
But
the
somehow it's
entire
still one of the
story.
most iconic
So much
story
emotion.
games that like
oh man.
like those art directors figured out a way to like pack in such a feel of an emotion in a game that had no literal narrative to it, and it's fantastic. Mine would have been Senua's Sacrifice.
That's I
Yeah,
can
okay.
see that. Absolutely.
Yeah, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Yeah. What
Yeah,
about
it's a
you,
beautiful
Joey?
game.
Oh man, I mean, I'm not really too crazy of a campaign guy.
It's all right,
it's been
but
a long
like
time.
just think of
No,
like something.
I got an answer for you,
Even if
Joey.
it's the last
what?
one you played.
Rocket League.
Yeah, it's Rocket League. It's always Rocket League.
Rocket League's campaign.
No, I mean, and I don't. It sounds bad, but I don't even want to crap because we were just crap talking Halo Infinite a little bit. But I didn't even mind the story. I'm holding Halo up to these super high standards
Right.
because of previous iterations of Halo.
Reach.
But the story itself wasn't even that bad.
Reach
to
is
the point-
unbelievable.
Reach is crazy.
Reach
It's
is
literally a
Reach is
God-tier game.
great.
Reach is like peak
top
Halo.
notch
Yeah,
of,
it is
of
it is
Halo.
peak
That's
Halo.
Halo. Yeah.
What about you, Mike? What's
Oh, I know exactly what your answer is going to be.
Yeah, you think so?
Control.
No.
Really?
No.
Wow.
But that was a great game.
I was going to say.
That was definitely a great
I'm
game.
surprised,
But technically, more recently, we were just talking about tonight, Metroid Dread.
Oh,
Yeah, Metroid.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair
you were
enough.
just
Because,
talking about
because
Metroid.
that completely single player, no multiplayer whatsoever, and that story. Now, granted, you kind of need to follow Metroid a little bit, but it does kind of recap everything that's happened previously.
yeah?
But it tells a story very beautifully.
One of the things that I learned from you is that it's really hard to follow Metroid's story unless you're really like watching and listening and paying attention and like also looking at other places for it. but I literally lived vicariously through you, watching you play, because I watched you play the game
Right.
3 or 4 times.
I'm surprised none of you guys said Undertale. I'm gonna be honest with you.
That's what I was waiting for.
I mean,
I was waiting for
well,
The
we,
thing
we
is,
said
it's a
we
cult
said
classic.
recent.
Yeah, yeah.
recent.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So,
I
and
wanna
that's why I
talk
went
about-
with Halo.
And the thing,
because-
unfortunately for me, I didn't have the playing it first thing. I watched it and then kind of like broke that
Decided.
for myself. So
I mean, honestly, you created the experience for me. That was like literally my fondest memories and my like most joyous emotions from that game was because you were like there, part of the
right.
trip, like
I mean, and I
trip
was
through it.
I was happy to.
Oh man, I'll never
like
forget that.
like you live
Oh.
vicariously through me for Metroid. I live vicariously through you for Undertale because I didn't get to experience that.
Well, it's sort of like how
firsthand.
Justin
I got
lived
to watch it
vicariously through
firsthand.
Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild through
Yeah.
Julian.
Yep.
yeah.
And
I'll never.
I
buy the
I
game.
lived vicariously through you guys on the other Switch game, Animal Crossing, because I
Animal
watched
Crossing,
you guys go nuts with Animal
and your
Crossing.
sister too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like I appreciate the game. It's just something that I never spent time with. But like, okay, outside of that, what's some good story games, narrative games, single players that you guys have played outside of just recent? But like think back to some of the shit that you've played.
I
We've
haven't-
already listed Undertale. Journey's fantastic.
I have a game that you've been playing recently.
Oh, dude, Mafia.
Yeah.
Okay, Mafia Definitive Edition. Awesome.
Specifically the Definitive Edition because they got more things right with it.
Well, if you're gonna play Mafia, if you're gonna go back and play Mafia, I highly recommend getting the Definitive Edition and playing it because, honest to fucking god, dude, one of my favorite things to do when I'm streaming is to find like a good narrative story game that I can play that's gonna make me feel a certain way, something that's gonna take my emotions and actually go like, oh damn, that was like. Holy
It
shit.
makes you feel it.
Yeah, and I played Mafia in black and white from start to finish in like 16. No, I'm sorry.
By the way, was the black and white a part of the game? Or
That
did you
was an
choose
option.
that was part of the game. I saw that was an option, and I tuned the stream to that to
Yeah.
match the aesthetic of the game because I wanted to play with that weird.
You did the same thing with Wolfenstein too.
Wolfenstein a little bit, yeah.
It wasn't the same.
It wasn't
but
as much,
similar.
but I did still theme it with that. But like Wolfenstein for me, recent Wolfensteins.
Yeah, the old ones.
The old ones, there's a lot of heritage with those games. I mean, Wolfenstein and Doom are the reason why first-person shooters exist nowadays the way they
Shot
do.
mechanics and everything.
Yeah, but as far as like recent Wolfenstein games, they went back and put those games together. I love a game that's gonna make me sit back and go, holy shit, like that was what a fucking story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it actually hits hard.
And there aren't a lot of games out there that do that. And
No,
and
there
you don't get that experience. You can have fun playing. Don't get me wrong. Multiplayer games, a ton of fun. Think
Right.
back to when we were playing
Well, it's different.
Super Animal Royale.
Yeah.
Dumb fucking game.
Oh yeah.
But
But
super
what
fun.
it's so fun to
It was
play with
fun
friends.
because it was with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the same way I think of Halo 3 in particular, the multiplayer. The Halo 3 was so definitive for the multiplayer because brand new like multiplayer game. It was back in 2008, so it was so new. It was so ingenuitive, and it was just like remembering all the game modes with your friends and just like all the different
custom
memories.
games you could do with
Yeah,
your friends
yeah.
and everything. There's been 2 games that have made me cry, like full-heartedly, and that is Halo 4, primarily for its story
Yeah,
because
it
of
was
the
the end.
ending.
It was
It's
the
the
ending.
ending. I'm a huge Halo fan, so that got
Give
me.
goosebumps.
And then Gears of War 3,
Yep.
and that's primarily because there was so much backstory built up to the other Gears of War that once these climax points hit in this one, it just got me. You know what I mean? It got me, and I'll never forget that moment of sitting there and crying over this game. And even my mom calls me in Halo 4, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "This is taking Cortana."
I think Senua's Sacrifice for me was probably the one game that comes first to my head that like fucked with my emotions to the point where I was like the roller coaster that brought me on was probably that game. And then Journey was probably one of the games that like weirdly, like I said, without a narrative still made me feel like my heart was like 3 times
in
bigger
it.
after I
Yeah,
played
yeah,
that game.
yeah.
The thing about Journey that really still sticks with me is there's a point in the game, and I have no idea if this is a part of it. I have no idea if it's a thing that people are still playing the game. I have no idea how
There
this
is.
works. But there's
shadows.
a point in time where you can come across people.
Yeah,
You will come across
Yeah.
what seems to be other players, and like
and it is.
and throughout the entire time, you never want to separate from them because you're like, oh hey,
I have a friend. And
like
like,
hey,
Right.
how's it going?
I'm
And
in
then we're
this
going through
barren
this together.
desert, and there's another person
And
here.
there's another
Exactly.
person here
So
with
like,
me.
I will never forget the one person that I met up with that like I continued to do the rest of the missions with, and like we literally ended the game together, and it was just like it's so cool to like have that connection.
And it was so minimal. You know, you never talked to him.
Yeah.
The most you ever did was
noisy.
like the little
Yeah, or spin around, do something. Yeah, that's it.
That was the most you got.
Oh man, that game was so amazing though. I can't get over it. And I'm really trying to think of what would be a another game that
Holy
had
fuck, dude.
We jamming.
the similar style to
Thanks,
it.
Kenzie.
But
Hey, boss.
I mean, honestly, I can't even think of another game that had me in that mode. I mean, did I shed a tear at Undertale when I beat it? At the end.
I think pacifist route, it definitely it gets to your
yeah,
feels.
It definitely does. Yeah, pacifist route definitely does.
I will be honest, when I played Undertale and like I'm gonna
beat it. Don't you?
No,
No,
Hold on,
I
but
did beat it.
let him talk.
I did beat it.
Let him talk because I remember him getting to the neutral ending, and the one thing I remember distinctly was just how upset he was with himself that he killed Toriel.
Yep.
He was so upset with himself that he killed Toriel in the
because
beginning.
I didn't know. I legitimately, we got into it started the battle, and I've never played a game before that can like legitimately punish you for actually like playing the game and like
the way
and
that
killing.
You think is
and like
I think you're supposed
and
to.
I see the battle screen, and I'm like, I gotta kill this person. And I fucking killed Toriel. And like when I got to it took me literally the next like hours until I got to the end of the game for me to realize what the fuck I did.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I was like,
because you're talking to a certain someone that brought it up to you.
oh my God, I cannot believe I did that. That was an option.
As
And like I'm over there like, oh my God.
You talk to Asgore and you kind of realize the connection. It's like,
Yep.
oh no.
Because he says it, and normally something else happens when that interaction happens, but
that's where I think that's the whole point of what makes a good movie, a good video game, a good book is you're left with, this questions. It's like, okay, you ever seen The Mist?
Yeah.
The movie The Mist?
Yes, fuck that movie.
Exactly, but the point is
that movie.
the point is it brought out emotion. You're not just like, oh, that was a good movie. When you hear it, there's something that brings you back, and you have this emotional connection to it that really is it's strong and it's powerful.
30 seconds. That's all.
I can
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
I
That's all
can think of a game and a movie that have made me cry physically. The game itself, and I know not a lot of people are going to have this attachment. No, stop.
Well, it's too late. The game, everybody.
Yeah, okay.
Y'all
Anyway.
lost.
Tagger it.
Was Tales from the Borderlands.
Really?
Yes.
Because
spoilers for anyone who hasn't played.
3, 2, 1.
Right,
Go away now.
Yep.
All right.
So, if you've played through the first 2, you've grown attached. The first 3, technically, you've grown attached to most of the characters by now. And in Tales from the Borderlands, in one of the episodes, the mechanic named Scooter sacrifices himself to save the character you're playing as.
I don't think you knew that.
That's okay. Hey, I could have closed my ears.
I'm so sorry, Joey.
Man.
You can still experience it though.
Because like if you touch 3 at all, it'll go immediately into that, and it'll
Yeah,
like
you
hold
learn
memorial
about it,
stuff for him
yeah.
and whatnot. But
seeing
I remember specifically like watching that scene and watching him ride away on the rocket to die so you could survive. I had tears. Now for the movie, I know if everyone's in this room seen it, which I'm pretty sure they have, they can all agree with me, is Marley and Me.
I knew you were gonna say that. I just knew you were gonna say that.
Mine is Iron Giant.
I don't remember.
Yes.
I cry when I watch Iron
I've
Giant.
never seen either of these movies.
Dude, you need to watch
Really?
Iron
You
Giant.
have not
man.
seen-
I probably
I've had
have seen Marley and Me, but I don't remember either of them.
Iron Giant
Iron Giant-
fucks me up every
Yeah.
time, bro.
I used to watch it so much as a kid. Like I will say that I didn't get like teary-eyed with the end. I can definitely see why, but I guess like watching it as a kid over and over, I kind of just got used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm a little baby, and I have a lot of movies that have just made me
Yeah,
made me
same.
cry.
You want Adventure
biggest
Time?
one.
The last season of Adventure Time.
I'm currently watching it, so don't spoil
I won't.
anything.
I won't.
But I'm
I will
watching
say
it.
the last 2 seasons of Adventure Time, I probably am like emotionally like traumatized and like
You would
want
say
to
that
cry
it's trauma.
because of how much like because like are you watching it from like start to finish,
Yes,
like going
yeah,
through?
yeah.
Okay, then I'm not gonna say shit, but like I will tell you.
I think
by
I
the-
just started season 3.
By the time you're gonna go through the journey of watching Finn grow up, and you're gonna see that so much as like the seasons progress. And when you get to the last couple of seasons, man, you are in for such a good ride, and I cannot wait to be able to talk to you about it.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to like.
Don't ruin it for
I'm
me.
not
Yeah,
at
'cause
all.
I'm watching.
All I'm saying is you're in for a fucking.
I've heard
awesome
a lot of
ride,
really
dude.
great things about it, and I don't really watch cartoons anymore. But then something about
Except
that
for SpongeBob.
one, yeah, old SpongeBob. But something about that one, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's watch this. Let's actually go through the whole
Good
thing.
because like seriously, it goes underappreciated because here the crazy thing about Adventure Time is like there's a lot of episodes that are in it where it's very like it doesn't matter. There's a lot of episodes that are like I almost want to say filler.
Yeah.
But the more significant importance behind that filler is watching the immaturity of because right now in season 3 you're still very immature Finn.
Yeah.
Finn is still very young, a kid and naive to everything that's in the world right now, and you'll see when he gets older, you're gonna see his first love, things like that.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
you're in for a great ride.
And
dude.
I feel like the more that we kind of get into this, kind of jumping back a little bit, these trilogies, these long games, this multiple times playing Borderlands, Gears of War, Halo, all of this, it's really hard to get a one-off game or movie that really hits that hard. I feel like a lot of
Senua's did it.
I was gonna
Senua's
say, it's there.
Hellblade did
Don't
it.
get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's a lot of examples.
There's examples,
But I feel like even for
They're
games,
far and few.
It's like
Oh, yeah.
Journey. We can talk about Journey. We can talk about how awesome it was, but we can't really name off a whole lot more of just like one time,
Well-
this one specific game that came out that
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
it
Honestly-
wasn't a trilogy or a sequel.
Usually it's the idea of what you follow, like Cortana, for example.
Do you
Yeah.
think it's
Halo,
because we're
like-
just older and we've been playing games for so long? When stuff like this loops back around, it hits us different because of nostalgia.
Well,
Is that
I mean, yeah.
Are we just old
the simple
gamers?
answer for
Like-
you is
Yeah,
yes. The
to
simple
some
answer is
degree.
yes.
Talking
Nostalgia is a
about
huge
games that you
play.
go through like one time, kind of follows the Tales from the Borderlands, the Telltale series. Most of those games you play through the one time. You don't really go through them for replayability.
Well, you can make different.
I mean, you
decisions,
can,
couldn't
but
you?
the thing is, like, they're with Telltale games, there are decisions that matter at the time but don't matter in
Near
the long
end of
run.
it,
And
the
then
same
the
thing
long-
happens.
Well,
Right.
so I used to have a console, and I had it was a couple years after I was into like gaming and everything until I got my first console, which was a N64. Okay, and that was my first, but I never really appreciated what I was doing because I was so young, right? But then I got into PCs shit way early on, and my first game, like AAA title that I could play, was Halo CE. And I think that's why Halo is so
nostalgically
significant.
bound to you.
Yeah,
because that was the same
it
for
was
me.
my first video game that like I could play on a computer and was like I had a computer that could actually even run it, and I was playing Halo CE
Playing Halo.
and mostly
Now-
multiplayer.
Now
I mean-
thinking about it, we have different.
I was
memories.
gaming during GameSpy, dude. Like I was a
Yeah,
GameSpy
I'm right
user.
there. I'm
Well,
right
it's
there
just,
with
it's
you,
interesting
man.
thinking about it because like my
Nobody here knows what
attachment-
GameSpy is.
Nuh-uh.
My attachment to Halo is vastly different than your attachment to Halo. Because my attachment to Halo, I have memories of playing the first
I didn't
and
have friends to
second.
play multiplayer with.
Well, that's the thing is I remember playing the first and second Halo on the original Xbox Duke because I went over to a buddy of mine's house, Craig. Whatever, but like I remember playing it, but the bulk of it happened with Halo 3. For you, it was just the nature of how Halo CE was in general. For me, it was like the memories of like playing Fat Kid and hopping into custom lobbies and playing Infection and Jenga and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
and even see for me, like I started on CE, I started on PC way back in the day. I didn't have an Xbox original, so I had to go over to my buddy's house
we
to.
were gaming on
to
fucking
play.
Pentiums,
Penti-
making those
yeah,
like stupid
yeah.
processors scream, and we had voodoo cards in our
Yeah.
machines, barely
but like,
able to run.
but
these
like each
games.
one kind of has like its own like nostalgic thing for me. Like PC, Halo CE, like you said. But like you said, Max, like Halo CE hits hard. Halo 2 was me going to people's houses and going to play with them and their consoles. Halo 3 was going to do the custom game. You know what I mean? So I have like specific nostalgic memories for each one, and I feel like that's maybe why we're a little bit, to bring it back to your question.
for your memory,
I said
I
GameSpy.
always think about Battlefield 2.
I was
because
gonna say,
you would
yeah.
always talk about you and your dad playing
Battlefield. I think
2.
that's one of the reasons I also have an issue getting into some of the newer, because I played, not to be a hipster, multiplayer. I played Call of Duty 1. I played Call of Duty 2.
Yeah.
Played Battlefield 1942 and Battlefield 2, all before Bad Company and all of that was a thing, and that was all my multiplayer experience. So like, I'm way back on the original ways, and I love some of the newer stuff. And I respect a lot of it, but a lot of that nostalgia comes back from me and my dad playing Battlefield 2 together.
Look at Darian, I'm for audio listeners. Darian is I'm Magic, and we play with him a lot. And he's a really cool dude. Blah blah blah. But he is a big WoW player. Mm-hmm. But he's a big WoW player because I believe, if I remember this correctly, it was him and his dad.
And his brother
that did a lot of WoW stuff.
Yes.
And that's why that game is significant to him is because he grew up playing this game. It was a nostalgic game for him.
That's how I kind of felt about Diablo until I shattered my disc.
Dude, Diablo 2, bro.
I'll never forget the day that I opened up a drawer and I was like, why would I open?
Here's a story.
No.
Here's a story.
I
didn't have a lot of friends growing up.
It's sad.
Because I moved around a couple of times, so like I had a very few like small tight friends and everything. One of my friends that I did have lived in my neighborhood when I was in middle school. I used to walk all the way across my neighborhood to go to his house because they had a computer that had Vista on it, which was enough to be able to play Diablo 2. And I used to go to his house to play Diablo 2 with him on his computer, and him and I would take turns playing Diablo 2.
Would you guys play a barbarian, necromancer, druid?
Necromancer was our thing because we would use magic.
Because you had to have the expansion pack.
Yeah, he had the expansion because his dad was a big Diablo player, so he had all the expansion packs.
Did you keep a collection of ears?
I don't, dude. It was so long ago. I don't even know.
I have a lot of memories of Diablo
but it got to the point where like I would go over to his house and like ring his parents' doorbell. And be like, hey, is so and so home so I can like hang out with him and everything? Be like, no, can I like play Diablo anyway until he gets home? And they would let me come in. I would sit down at the computer and play fucking Diablo until he got home. Yeah,
I mean,
that's awesome.
I definitely remember having childhood friends where I could just if they weren't home, I could go over
parents. Yeah, my parents were friends with their parents, so it was like, you can come on in, like you want to like do this, whatever.
Right,
Also, one of my favorite old school gaming experiences was playing some of the original, what's the new one that came out with the big
characters? Fallout? I don't know.
No, she had some voluptuous personality.
Resident Evil?
Resident Evil. Oh, yep, Resident Evil. Resident Evil, yep, you got it.
With the big
personality. His older sister would play some of the original Resident Evil games and Silent Hill games, and we'd sit over there and we'd sit in the basement. We'd all be grouped together. One person would be playing, and we'd be sitting around the TV watching somebody play through Silent Hill or the early Resident Evil games, and we would play that.
Quick breakaway from the story of a Resident Evil one time. Long story short, squeam warning. All right, this is gonna get a little gruesome. I lost a toenail because of Resident Evil 1.
Oh.
All right, I want the story.
I mean, there's really not much to go into it other than the fact
connection between those two things is something I would never expect to hear.
Well, you have to think I had an older brother, right? And when I was younger, I was very afraid of Resident Evil because it's a pretty spooky looking game in context to
Resident Evil is not as bad as Silent Hill was, but Resident Evil
was scary.
Was still inherently spooky.
About being a 9-year-old kid walking into a room, seeing creepy and then like stuff jumping out of windows at you, right? So
Resident Evil, the old ones, with the like door animation of going between rooms.
Well, they all shared that same like where the camera angles. They all shared
those. The camera angle is pointing at you, and you hear something in front of you, but you don't know what's there because the camera's pointing you, and you're like, do I go towards the thing that's making the noise?
There was no like aiming up and down. But okay, regardless, the whole idea was my brother was playing. He wasn't supposed to. I came in and was like, whoa, what are you doing? You're not supposed to play that game. And then he's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And he pushed me, and I stepped back, and my toenail got stuck on this like little metal piece of a metal bus toy. And I stepped down, and it ripped off.
The whole thing?
This sounds more like it was your brother that ripped off. your toe.
Yeah.
But Resident Evil was involved.
If he wasn't playing Resident Evil, then I probably
But he got- yeah.
This just sounds like your brother was just having a good time playing
and then
Resident Evil,
little
and
Justin's like,
Justin
no.
came in like, hey, get off my console, and
It
like,
wasn't even mine. It was my mom's. It was my mom. It was my mom was the one that liked playing Resident Evil. She hasn't played ever since. So.
See, that's what's crazy because my dad, the only reason why I had my first console was because my dad wanted to play Duke Nukem.
Probably when I was like
on the
16,
N64. And he played Duke Nukem on the N64, and the only reason why I ever got into my first console was because my dad had already purchased it.
Man,
and,
so
and like I feel
was
like
that your
so
first game?
my first game was Duke Nukem on the N64. My first console game.
Wait, actually, like
My first console
I'm
game
all
was
out of
Duke
gum.
Nukem on the N64.
wow.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know what my first game was. I had a controller in my hand and a PC in front of me longer than I can.
I can definitely think of
comprehend.
what mine was.
I know
and
exactly which mine is too.
It's probably the reason for my well-known addiction in my friend group of it being Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
I remember playing that
Yeah.
on my original NES.
On the original NES, like the
Yes,
original.
yes.
original
I
NES?
have a working
Crazy.
original NES still. That same NES.
I didn't
have.
That's
get
really
my
cool.
Super Mario 64 N64 cartridge until probably a year and a half after I had already played Duke Nukem 64.
So
N64 was the only Nintendo console I never owned.
Super Mario was great.
I
played a lot.
my very first game I actually ever played was a Barney. It was a Windows 95 Barney game that you would buy like a plushy robotic toy that you plugged in via PS2 to your computer, and you would play the game, and the Barney like toy would play around and like do stuff with you as you were interacting with the game. But the first console game was the PS1. It was the very first Rugrats game. That was my very first.
Rugrats games
Oh,
back in the
dude,
day were the
dude.
jam, bro.
I had Rugrats
With the
Return
upside
to
down
Paris.
Return to Paris, yeah.
On fucking PlayStation 2.
I had it on
I never
PS1.
played any other game past.
Well, I had a PlayStation
the
2, but I
first
had
one.
it. It was a PlayStation
It's
1
one
game
copy, and then you
on
played it.
PlayStation 2.
I had one of the favorite
Talk about
ones.
one of the first backwards compatible
Compatible-
consoles.
yeah,
PlayStation
PS2.
2.
PS2
Yep.
was
PS2, baby.
really revolutionary. For
Mhm.
what
Oh,
it
dude,
was.
yeah.
it was
It was literally the game that had the most games on it, or the console that had the most games.
okay.
on it.
Full circle to do a quick full circle. Okay, see you later, Jen. PlayStation 2, one of the first incredibly innovative game consoles where they turned. The biggest thing was cross compatibility, memory cards that were like actually worthwhile, and great controllers.
Mhm.
You know
All-
what the
controllers
best thing
were good.
was?
What's that?
On the console, you could turn the little PlayStation icon.
Yeah,
Yep,
that
that is
too.
that
That
is
was
true.
the
You
best
could do that.
feature.
You could do that.
But PlayStation is gonna have a hell of a run for their money.
Oh,
With-
now they will. Absolutely.
with this accusation
Yeah.
of Blizzard and
Mhm.
and
well, if you think about
Well,
it,
because
I don't-
and it's not because Blizzard and Activision are going away. It's
No.
because they're not going away. It's just the fact that Microsoft is going to be able to take those IPs and put them in their library. How is PlayStation going to recover? Dude?
So I feel that they are already starting on their recovery process by bringing exclusive games that have been exclusive to PlayStation, like God of War and Uncharted. They are now coming, God of War already there, to PC.
it needs to happen because the future of gaming is on PC.
Is on
because
PC.
Consoles are turning into
Computers.
Mini
They're
computers.
I mean,
They've
look at the
been-
Xbox. You can plug a fucking mouse and keyboard and a normal high refresh rate monitor into an Xbox, into a current gen Xbox, and you can play it as a PC right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and that's revolutionary.
And it's like-
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
I just can't believe it didn't happen sooner.
Well,
I'm-
so
yeah,
like
that too.
Xbox is innovating by making the clash between PC and Xbox so minimal.
Well,
Yeah.
they were already there because it's their products.
Well,
you
they've been
know?
doing it back
but
when
they
Windows
had to interject both of them.
on the point where Windows 7 was being outmoded for Windows 8.1 and Windows 8.
Gross.
That transition was the initial Xbox is now going to be a part of PC, and PC is going to be a part of Xbox. That's when they made that decision.
Cortana and
Everything, dude.
Yeah.
Everything. They even those like Windows tiles and everything. That was
Yep.
when they first launched the fact that you could stream your Xbox. That's how I used to play Sea of Thieves with you guys.
Yep.
Is I used to stream
Your
my
Xbox.
Xbox game to my PC, and I used to play with you guys on Xbox through PC.
You know, it's
because
kind of interesting.
So
Yeah,
before
no,
you
go
move,
ahead,
my point of saying all this is Xbox that's their current innovation point. That's what they're trying to do to push the consumers to innovate their game consoles.
And now,
what the fuck is Sony gonna do to compete with that? What,
Sony
I
has
want them
TVs.
to. I want them to
TVs
be
and
successful
audio
because
devices.
I am a fan of PlayStation in general.
Yeah.
I like what
The
they do.
existence of it is definitely healthy and good. It's a good. They have
But
their own
they're
thing.
not going to continue to exist if they can't be competitive in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
and
are
I
they
feel
gonna
like
do?
that's where they're realizing that
Come
they
back
need.
to another monopolization.
Yeah, I feel like that's where they're realizing that they at least need to get the ball rolling on trying to get some games up
Wait,
on the computer.
I'm sorry, but Spider-Man is not going to carry the PlayStation forever.
No.
Well, and that's how Sony thinks it in the first place. I mean, think about how Sony and Disney and Marvel and all that stuff.
Yeah,
had
say
that issue.
Sony's kept their tight grip on
They're
Spider-Man
trying to
because they
hold
think
on
they
to
can
it.
just.
because they think that's going to be their money.
They
for
they
long.
know that's
I mean,
their
well,
primary source.
They're
of-
selling
It is,
current gen
yeah.
fucking consoles based off Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And there's only that's only gonna last for so long until when are they gonna do something? They lost.
Hot take.
They're losing Crash Bandicoot with this.
Bring
with this
back
buyout.
Little Big Planet.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
oh,
it's
that's
part
true.
of
It's
Activision
part of
Blizzard. They're losing.
Activision.
Wait,
They're
is it
losing.
really?
Yes,
Yeah, because
they're-
it's Activision that made Crash Bandicoot. I
my
completely
God.
yes,
forgot about
they're
that.
losing Crash.
They're using they're losing their logo, man.
Yeah,
they're all
They're
star.
losing their Mario.
They're
my
Mario.
God, you're
Yeah.
so right.
Wow. Damn. That
You know
sucks.
what? Hey,
let's go.
you know what? I'm okay with this because like
Dude, Little Big Planet was
Little
a
Big-
revolutionary
Yes,
game.
it was.
All I gotta say is the first one was better than any of the others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first one was
Because they got-
PlayStation 3, right? That was PlayStation.
Yeah, that was
3.
PS3.
That was fucking-lutionary. Dude.
Mhm.
That was next tier.
I literally cannot explain the amount of time I spent on there. And like, if I were to still go on there, as long as they still have the servers up, I still have all the maps I made, all of the favorites I had, and like plenty of memories to have.
But
with
that was
it.
an innovative game. It was something
Or-
that nobody have done before. So
I was literally just last night. I was talking about it with Yana. I don't know if you even heard me talking about it. I was talking about something called PlayStation Home. Have any of you ever
Yeah.
heard of it?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
PlayStation Home is.
PlayStation Home was literally the equivalent of PlayStation VR Chat.
Oh
You
yeah,
could
I
just
mean,
hang out and
like,
get
it
everyone
was-
together.
that's
it was
their-
the idea
that's
of
their
a
VR
metaverse.
thing right now.
You could buy money, or you could spend money to get credits to get stuff inside the game. It was so ingenuitive, and it died. It literally, it died in like 2014, and it'll probably never come back. But the
why do
nature
you think
of
it died? That's so
I don't
like,
know.
Yes.
I don't know
why like let's think about it for a minute. Why do we think
Well,
that died?
okay, so-
what
so-
happened that
So
didn't-
here's the
It
thing
had
I
to
wanted
have
I wanted to
been
say before to
exclusivity
kind
or
of
something.
bring back our conversation between like multiplayer games and campaign games is I love campaign games, but the problem with certain campaign games is after you complete the game, like Tales, there's no real reason to go back and
Yeah.
keep playing it. That's what the multiplayer has to offer. So it's finding some way to add some type of replayability with the game that makes it feel fresh and new and innovative in its own little way. But I don't even know,
Right.
I guess, what else I'm looking
a
for.
perfect example of exactly what you're trying to say, and I don't even really have personal experience to back this up on my own, but Skyrim.
the
Skyrim literally is a single player game that has never changed. They added DLC.
It's
but
the modding community.
People
Yeah.
don't talk.
I was
going
gonna
to
say,
it's
I-
not even that. People don't talk about the DLCs when they talk about Skyrim. They talk about Skyrim.
Skyrim, that is true. Yes, they talk
that-
about the
and-
game.
I think Skyrim
But
came out.
but
in
you
2007.
you cannot argue that the modding community is the
2009.
reason why that game is still very relevant.
Maybe for PC, but there's no modding on console if I remember correctly. Unless I remember
No,
that
there
they
is
brought
no
it
modding.
on
No, there isn't.
Fallout. There's
modding on
for
Fallout
4 for console, but I'm gonna be honest. Like most of the people that I know that still love Skyrim, that still play it every once in a while, are on console.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's the
game's kinda
community. It's
broken
the
on
community
PC, honestly.
that keeps it going. That's kind of the
so,
weird.
So what does Skyrim offer that allowed for that replayability?
It's the nature of the game. They just did such
mean,
a good
the-
job of creating an open concept that
Skyrim has such an open base to it that you can choose different paths and still
and
play,
progress.
and still progress and whatnot.
in your own way that you want to play. Even if you did everything this way, you can redo a new
Right.
save, a new game, and then you can do everything that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can be that complete separation on how you want to play, to give the player the opportunity to be like, oh, I want to play it again, but this time I want to kill that guy, or this time I want to save that guy.
Would you argue that Cyberpunk tried to take that same approach?
Absolutely.
yeah.
So
well,
why-
But
why
they also
didn't
blew it out of proportion. They blew it up outside of that. They
So
tried
you-
to
so
say
you-
it was the
okay.
next big thing.
So you think Cyberpunk just failed because they wanted the next big thing and they blew it up into this and then
that's what
I
I
feel
overhyped killed the
Cyberpunk
game.
absolutely.
Yes.
If that game was a silent release, it probably would have done great in comparison to what they pictured it
Yes,
as.
they hyped it up. They weren't ready for
Keanu
all of the
Reeves,
hype
man.
that they promised. And then when it came down to the game being released and it wasn't released, then it wasn't released, then it wasn't released, then the community just got mad and they're like, we just want it. And they're like, it's not done. And they're like, we don't care. We just want it. And they're like, okay, well, here's the unfinished game. And then everyone was upset that it wasn't. But the problem was is they made promises and they couldn't reach the level of the promises that they had made in the timely
Whereas
manner.
Skyrim didn't uphold those same promises.
No,
they
it
were
was
just
was
like,
holding up to Oblivion standards, and
Yeah.
Oblivion standards were already
High.
like really broken and like totally like.
Yeah,
what
if
the
you
hell?
really look at some of the Oblivion gameplay, there's some broken,
Yeah.
But that
there's
was
some
part of
broken
the
stuff.
charm. That was part of the Oblivion world.
But but you're touching on the almost the point of games where when they released the game, that was it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because at that point they weren't able to release patches for games to
Patches.
fix things, and those broken elements, those exploits were part of inherently the game. Where nowadays, when you release like a Call of Duty or any multiplayer game, I use Call of Duty for example because
I
there's
feel
a lot
like
of
multiplayer
exploits.
games are a little bit different, but I see where you're coming from.
I mean,
They will like if there's an exploit, the player gets punished for using that exploit.
Yeah.
the games come out and it's like, oh, well, if you walk into this corner of this wall, you can actually go through the wall and get to this point.
And then just
the
shoot
next-
everyone through the wall.
And then like 5 days later, they send out a
Patch.
patch to fix that because that wasn't intentional. But it's like,
So is it taking the charm out of the game at that point?
I don't believe so. As somebody who's
I mean,
currently
for-
building a game,
for a
This
multiplayer,
is actually touching on like if you go ahead keep on
for
going.
a multiplayer game, I think fixing those kinds of things needs to be done. But like for a single player game, where like, oh, I can glitch this wall, and like for like speed run purposes or whatever, like how many speed runs
broken,
are
who
done
cares?
because they glitch through a wall or something like that. I think that's kind of fun to
as
do.
long as people
Yeah.
have fun
I mean,
with it, yeah.
hell, the new fucking Five Nights at Freddy's, how big that game is? That game is about 8 to 10 hours long when you play it properly. The world record speedrun for it right now is 3 minutes because you can glitch through the boundaries so easily.
Makes me think of.
But that's part of the
Outlast.
charm of it, dude.
yeah.
No,
well,
I-
and
no.
I'll say, okay, as somebody who's building a game, just to answer everybody's questions, I'm building a scary game.
Yes.
Coming
But
soon.
Coming soon, hopefully by
October
of this year. Hopefully, it will be on Steam. But as somebody who is building a game and as somebody who has watched many people play the game for testing purposes, there are a lot of glitches that I've seen that I don't want in the game. So obviously,
But you
my
fix them
goal.
before you release.
But I'm fixing it before I release.
Don't you
Now,
dare break those physics.
now, if I have always said though, although I can have all of my friends and close people to me test the game and try and break it so I can release the most polished version of the game at release, I'm actually really excited for when speedrunners get a hold of the game and how much they can just break the shit out of my game.
Absolutely,
because there's going to be so many problems with it, and I'm more excited to see them break the snot out of my game in ways that no one else possibly could.
Have you ever watched those videos of the Half-Life, the original Half-Life crew that go back and watch speedrunners
Yes,
break
yeah,
their games?
yeah.
They're mind blown.
Yeah, they're mind blown
And
by
the thing is they can literally recall back and be like, "Oh, he's probably using
this code,
mechanic
yeah.
to fuck with it," and that was an oversight that we knew about, but there was nothing we could do about it because the engine we had at the time.
Yeah, or it's
but
like we didn't really think it was going to be that big of a problem.
But is that not part of the charm of these games?
and so what I was gonna say
that doesn't exist
is
anymore.
going back to that is a really good example of where people think the charm of games get lost in updates and stuff like that is Modern Warfare 2. The multiplayer of Modern Warfare 2 was ungodly broken. There was these guns that literally would one shot across the map if you used them in akimbo, and like there was just these nature of just really broken things.
I've got cookies. I'm really sorry. Keep going.
Keep
no,
going.
it's okay. I smelt these.
I know. I smelled them too, honestly.
But it's just like it's
Oh,
one of
they're
those
warm?
cases where
Yes, Chowder.
not
it is.
everyone that played Modern Warfare. Sorry. Not everyone that played Modern Warfare 2 is going to be able to sit
you
there
guys can see it.
and remember all of these things that happened in the past of like the early like stages of the game. But as the game went on, updates came out, DLC came out, and the game changed. But there's still the memory of all of the glitches, all of the elevator glitches, going inside rocks on a DLC map, and like just all these things that like I can recall back to, and I remember those things as like, man, that was really cool to like reminisce. I wouldn't want that in a game nowadays, but it's still cool to recall back.
Maybe not
to.
necessarily in a multiplayer standpoint.
I was going to say, so here's the difference to go back towards.
Completely different. It has to be fair.
Yes, and here's the thing going back to the game that I'm currently building. The game that I'm currently building has a campaign mode and should have a survival mode. With the survival mode,
so okay, talk about your game here because some people were curious about it.
Yes.
Okay, so the game is basically it's called Escape Purgatory. Imagine a
you got a name for it now.
Yes,
there is. Name for it when I played it.
There's a name. It's Escape Purgatory. Imagine an escape room on steroids because it's not an actual room. You're more just trapped amongst a plane of existence.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I played a very, very, very early build of this back when he didn't have a name. It was terrifying. It was so terrifying already, and it was so simple at the time, but it was already very terrifying.
I was having fun with it though. I will say, with that very early version that you showed us, like replayability wise, you'd go get your highest score or whatever.
Yeah.
That was probably like the limits of the replayability aspect is just getting your high score.
So that's kind of where I wanted to segue into is there'll be a like campaign, I put kind of quotes on it, but like a campaign story mode of this game, but there'll also be a survival mode of this scary haunted game, kind of similar to maybe zombies, you could say, but a little bit different. But when this comes out, what I don't want to see, what I'm expecting, let's say people are able to make it 10 minutes in the survival mode. If I see somebody on the leaderboard that has made it 10 hours, I know there's a problem. There's an exploit. Yeah, so for me,
they hide in a corner and they can survive.
And they can survive. So I want, as a developer, I want to know that exploit. I want to fix that exploit, and I want to possibly even reset the leaderboards to create another.
I have a question.
Another reset, so people don't have to like see these old crappy exploited tricks, and then
that's one of the issues with Forza Horizon 3. In Forza Horizon 3 there was some pretty broken shit that you could do with trains and cars, where you could use trains and your car to be able to push your car to the point where it was moving at 800 miles an hour to break speed records.
You could speed up your wheels if you were to get your car stuck into a spot where you literally could just hold your gas down and your wheels would spin. They would infinitely gain speed, momentum.
Yep.
And so when they touched, it would just take off.
So your speed record. So there's people that hold records right now in Forza, a AAA title, that hold records of like 800 fucking miles an hour, which when you are a normal player, you can never ever get close
and
to that.
That's what I don't want. And so that's basically where I'm at with it, where I want to release the survival mode where there's a time limit, but I don't want to see people. I want to see people exploiting it. But
Keith just said a really cool idea there. If you want to read that comment, and then you can respond to it.
Dang, Joey, have you ever
read it out loud for audio?
Have you ever thought of the streaming about the technical work of design in a modern game? So have you ever thought about streaming, like actually working on the game physically?
Wow. And streaming it?
Like working on the game and streaming it, yes.
Oh, yeah,
The way Max streams avatar making.
So I have heavily thought about doing that. And for the future title of my future games, I actually will be doing that. For this game in particular, I'm working very close with one individual, and we're keeping that game housed on one computer. And that computer is it's my computer, but it's upstairs. So I'd have to go upstairs, set up the whole streaming thing, and get it all to go. But I'm more taking this opportunity to kind of learn how to make a game. And then once I understand it a little bit more, then for my future titles, I would definitely love to live stream me just building a game like getting feedback from even people from the stream so that they could, give me a pointer.
Where you make a game in a stream.
I could do that.
A game like a 4-hour game.
A 4-hour game, just make it and go.
That idea, honestly, like personal example, I remember watching, if anyone knows him, Rubber Ross, who's a friend of the Game Grumps. He made an entire like super hard Mario world inside Mario Maker, and he streamed the whole making of it and like making it, having to pass it to publish it, all that. And it's very interesting to watch someone design such things because they're things that you don't normally think of, or
It
like
works, yeah.
and also on the other side, chat could offer ideas of like, do
Yeah.
this instead of that, and it's like, oh, that's such a great idea. Yeah, let's do that.
I'm going to be honest. The biggest thing that has been one of the most beneficial helps, especially from these guys, is just picking their brains about little concepts and getting their quick little feedback from people. So that way I can take that. Doesn't mean I exactly use what they said,
Right.
but I take it and I hold on to what you guys say, and then I end up
Use it.
incorporating it in other ways or later down the line in its own unique way. Gesundheit.
Thank you.
To jump back to the exploits thing, I just want to give another example. So you don't want your game to end up like Call of Duty World at War, where in Knock Your Untoten, you could just sit in the one spot where they could never touch you with the flamethrower, and you could just
survive sit there and go forever. See, no, that's not what I want. I'm excited to see people, and that's the like balance, I would say. I'm excited to see speedrunners break the game. I'm excited to see survival perfectionists break the game. When it comes down to certain things, I'm okay with leaving certain exploits available. If you're just going for the campaign and you found a sleazy, cheesy way to get a hold of everything really fast and it just works, go right ahead. I'm not gonna patch that up and punish you for it, you know.
Right.
But if we're doing a survival where there's a leaderboard,
How do you feel about where like in current games? Like look at I'll use RuneScape for example. It's not a current game, but I'll use RuneScape for example. If you were caught doing like economy glitches and stuff, your account was reset.
So I mean, I feel like it would depend on how far the person would go. If somebody went to the point of
how are you building in metrics into your game to be able to measure, you know, like because back at the time RuneScape didn't have metrics set up to be able to like, oh, this person did like they only got like 1 million and then this person did 600 million. You know, like they didn't have metrics at the time, so like anybody that they detected with doing it cleared account.
That's an MMO that's like that follows a different kind of thing.
I'm just it's one example I can think of. So
I would say, like I said, the biggest thing, you know, and maybe this would suck for the patching side of things, but like I said, if I got on and the highest record was 13 minutes, and that was like pretty challenging to get to, and I knew as the developer that it was challenging to get to, and then one day I look at it and it was a 6-hour record. I knew somebody clearly found something.
Well, here, I'll use a modern example. I'll use a modern example. Back for Blood. If you had a 4-man team that was all on comms, just based on that fact alone, you could literally dominate any team that you were opposing.
You really, I mean, you technically could, and then that would be the cool thing is reaching a point where you can just dominate the game, you know, and hold it. That's what I would love to see.
Because that's not truly an exploit,
yes.
but it's not fair.
It's,
you know what I mean?
What about the case of Halo Infinite's campaign where you can infinitely momentum yourself across the entire map?
With the grapple?
Or in Halo, and also on another side in Halo Infinite, you can get inside of one of the Gauss cannons and move around and use it. You can use that as a weapon throughout the entire game.
So the difference here is kind of, I think, what we were saying before, where that's campaign. If you want to break the game in its campaign form, go ahead. If you want to break the game now in the multiplayer side of things, I'm not okay with that. Leaderboards, there's records. I want these people to see their records up there, and this is how far they got. I don't want to wake up one day. It's going to probably happen, but I don't want to wake up one day. It's bound to happen.
Are you going to reset those scores though? Are you going to like,
I feel like there would have to be some type of reset. If there was a very clear, obvious that said Glitch Penguin got 6 hours on this, I would take Glitch Penguin and I would I would actually personally message you and say, "Hey, how'd you do that, man? Yeah. I'm kind of interested," you know. And then I would probably end up removing them. And it's not for any personal vendetta against the player, as it's rather, well, this is not meant to do that. This is supposed to be how long you can survive, and you cheated. And
because you're cheating. It is essentially cheating.
You're cheating. So you're not. This record isn't valid. And that's kind of how I would approach it.
I think that's a great point to bring up because so far, until you said that is the first time that we brought up the fact that using those exploits of any sort is cheating. You are officially cheating.
I don't know. I like keeping the separation between cheating and exploiting.
So what's the difference? What is
cheating? Is like modifying the game's data to your advantage.
No, that is modding. Modding
that's cheating. That's
cheating is using glitches.
So the thing is, you can use exploits to cheat.
Cheating is just doing what was not intended to accomplish a specific goal.
So
wasn't a part of the original rules.
But if you can use the tools that are inside the game that are at your disposal, shouldn't that be on the developer?
Yes.
So is that just you're exploiting the game?
That's exploiting.
That's what I'm saying. That's exploiting. And like I can see the point of obviously not liking it, but like in the case of someone doing something that you put into the
Joey,
game,
can I use your mic for a quick second? I want to do something funny really quick.
Yes.
Okay. Hey Google, can you give me the definition of cheating?
According to Wikipedia, cheating generally describes various actions designed to subvert rules in order to obtain unfair advantages. This includes acts of bribery, cronyism, and nepotism in any situation where individuals are given preference using inappropriate criteria.
That's taking like real world games.
Okay, Google. Hey Google, can you give me the definition of exploit?
According to Wikipedia, an exploit is a piece of software, a chunk of data, or a sequence of commands.
Okay, Google, stop. Hey Google, stop. Hey Google, what is the definition of exploit?
Exploit has 3 different meanings. Starting with the most common one, exploit can be used as a verb to mean make full use of and derive benefit from a resource, as in 500 companies sprang up to exploit this new technology. Is that the meaning you had in mind?
No, tell me the next meaning.
Sorry, I can't find anything.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, Google, thank you. You're amazing.
The idea is still there, and like, I don't know. Like, I definitely understand it not being something that you are obviously wanting, because clearly the idea of you doing what you're doing is not to be like, all right, guys, try and find the most broken thing and exploit it. But
exploiting and cheating are 2 different things, but you can exploit to cheat.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say in that notion, I wouldn't want...
You wouldn't want people to...
Even Darian is saying cheating in video games is widely defined by using third-party software.
You wouldn't want to...
That's fair. So exploiting would be not having
using the tools at your disposal to create a greater advantage because you understand it.
Here's a great example of cheating. In the definition of third party in Game Dev Tycoon, you can use an auto clicker.
That's cheating. Yeah.
If you're using an auto clicker,
auto clickers in general are cheating.
What you can do is when you go to accept a contract, and when the contract accepts, if you can auto click the accept button, because as soon as you click it, it will disappear and fade away. But if you use an auto clicker and you use the auto clicker on the accept button, it'll actually freeze the game and stop the frame rate, and it'll drop the frame rate on the game to like in stupid low level, and you can keep clicking that button as it's disappearing off the screen until it's completely off. So until it's off the screen and you remove the auto clicker, you can receive, let's say your benefit was like $1,000. You can receive, if you auto clicked 10,000 times, you now receive $10,000 instead of $1,000.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be a cheat. You just officially cheated the game.
A funny way to in turn create the same idea but not using a third-party software is in Call of Duty 4 in the multiplayer, when someone got a like an attack helicopter as a kill streak.
Okay.
There was, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna take it back. It was Modern Warfare 2. If you were to shoot down an attack helicopter with bullets, it would like spin out of control and then eventually crash. If you shot it with rockets, it would just explode immediately. But the thing that was cool is you used to have like titles and stuff like that back then, right? Like you would accomplish a challenge to get certain stuff. So there was one in particular to shoot down X amount of attack helicopters. Well, there was a really unfortunate case on Call of Duty's end. There was a exploit where if you shot it down with bullets and got it to start spinning, every single time you shot it with one bullet, it would count as you killing it. So
For more XP.
Yep. Well, for the challenge. So like if you, let's say
So
you
you
had,
shot like 10, 20 bullets into it as
you would
it's spinning.
kill it 20
you killed
times.
20 times.
Exactly. So like there was a challenge that you had to kill 200. So you just get an LMG, dump 200 rounds into it.
While
Every
it's
single
spinning out.
bullet, you'd get a challenge like like it would just keep on coming through. But that was a case of
That's
the
an
game.
exploit.
That's an
That's
exploit.
That was
So
a
you're
case
not
of a game.
cheating.
You're not
It's
cheating.
an
Having
exploit.
a bad case, and you just literally exploited the fact that was that.
Okay. Well,
But I still think to some degree it's
So
cheating.
records, exploits
But
for records and for like achievements, not achievements though that we think of as like ding, but like achievements as in like world records or whatever. Exploiting is understandably in the laws of being able to dictate what is a good run or
It's-
what's an
It's why
incorrect
speed
I
run.
agree
runs
with,
exist.
I agree with Keith in chat. Yeah, I'd say it's fair based on the logic the game is flawed. They didn't modify the game to cheat. You didn't modify the game.
Exactly.
So because of
Right.
that, you
You
are
are in your well right to do whatever
Yes.
the game.
You didn't-
so
use
the
a third
example,
party.
yeah. I guess in that same example,
In my
I would
eyes.
I would feel inclined to really, if like I saw Glitch Penguin had, the example
600 shot down
or
helicopters.
Let's
whatever.
say you did it to win a tournament.
That's where, yes,
Yes,
where the
that's
line.
what the
That's
issue
where the
is.
line.
yeah.
gets
But
crossed.
if I saw that and I asked Max, how did you get that? And he just told me, oh, I sat in a corner and I did it. Or Max said, I downloaded this program and it actually allowed me to do this.
that's cheating.
That's where I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going
the
to
corner-
I'm
the
going to be
corner-
removing
Okay,
your record.
I used to watch.
The
I
corner's
used to
an
watch.
exploit. The software's cheating.
Yep.
I used to watch the Dota 2 championships. I would see people clip out of the map during the tournaments. They would go outside of the map and deal damage from outside of the map, and it was considered as fair because there's a mechanic in the game, and a lot of people that were in these tournaments would utilize that mechanic because it was in the game and it was fair play.
So on that same note, I have to say, I don't know if you knew about this. I believe it was Halo 3. Okay, but there was a Halo 3 tournament that went on, and Halo 3 is a very popular game. There's a lot of people that know that game inside and out, and a lot of little hidden secret spots that you can hide in to, have an advantage in the game. So there was a tournament of these Halo 3 players that would then play, get a few kills, and then go hide in these spots that no one could find them. And then they participate and won some of these tournaments. And then after they made it further in the bracket, and I believe it was Bungie that realized, oh, you're doing this. This isn't a part of the game. They were actually removed
Which is understandable.
from the
So
tournament.
they're disqualified.
They were disqualified
Yeah.
for what you're saying in Dota. They said is okay.
Yeah.
When
It
they
depends on
did,
the
I feel like it
developers,
depends
yeah.
on the developer. Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
like that's the same
Like
thing
a-
that Darian's saying here. Is he saying that someone had the world record for beating Boneworks in 15 minutes, and it's still a world record because it's accepted.
It's accepted.
Well, this is so.
But Boneworks
This-
was
this
released
kinda-
as a definitive game. They're not releasing updates. And
But that's the
patches.
thing. They could also sit there
Well, they
and say
have.
like, "Oh, those."
Okay.
Yeah.
This
But they
kinda-
could say that it's not a valid world record. They could say that it's not cool, and they could say that.
Then
your
you get
world
into your-
record is invalid.
Then you get into your speed runs of like
Any
ze-
percent.
any percent, 100%,
Right,
no
right. Yeah,
glitches.
yeah,
Then
So then
get into your
in a-
subgenres.
in a case scenario where somebody beat Boneworks in 15 minutes and then they go release a patch to fix whatever that person did, is that world record still valid?
Technically,
Well,
for
it would be
people
because they
that
could
made
mark it
that.
as like pre-patch,
Pre-patch,
post-patch.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
So maybe
depends how it
if
gets
anything,
contained.
these are all things that are really useful for me to think about for my upcoming
yeah,
game.
yeah.
How I'm gonna do this.
The best example I can think of is Mario 64 speedruns. Eventually, they did release a newer version of the game that you would not be able to backwards long jump.
Yep.
I was
They
the
fixed-
backwards
they
long
fixed
jump
that.
was like
It
literally.
was. It was.
They actually did
it was
fix
any
that
game
eventually.
off of the cartridge, right? It was any of the versions that you can buy now or play now that aren't the original cartridge game are.
like Switch
Essentially,
versions
yeah.
and-
If you
Yeah.
if you play the 3D All Stars version,
Mhm.
which has Mario 64, you cannot backwards long jump in that.
Yep. I remember when I heard about that, and I was actually kind of sad because I never had the chance to experience it. So
Have
Right.
you guys ever heard about the speed run? I think it's Legend of Zelda. What's the one with the moon?
Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask. there's a speed run where it's actually like a long run where it takes
It's like
No,
the
you're-
key
no,
run or
You're
something.
thinking, you're
Yeah.
thinking of Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know what you're
because-
talking
Where
about.
you have to grab the rupee in the chest and you
Because-
sit there for hours.
How it works, I know exactly how it is because I literally I know
I
exactly,
know
what
exactly
you're
what
talking
this is.
It's simply because the animation loop that Link is in when he's in an item it doesn't matter, any item.
Yep.
But the thing is in Twilight Princess, everything you picked up was ba-da-ba-ba. So when you're in that stage, the animation loop isn't perfect.
no,
So
it's off
you're-
by
so
like one
Link's
point.
It's
position
always moving forward,
changes.
just tiny.
It's backwards. He moves backwards.
I was going to
Oh,
say,
right,
it
backwards.
actually
I'm
can
sorry,
be, I was going to
backwards.
say, it's,
in that game in particular, because of the animation loop, he moves backwards. So that's part of the speed run. It's for low percent. It's to
Low percent.
It
no
doesn't
item.
matter
Yeah,
how
yeah.
long you do it, as long as you beat the game with
The lowest
with
amount.
the lowest amount of items. You have a better
Yeah,
world record.
and
Doesn't matter what
I remember
time.
the
Yeah, it's like
rupee-
14 hours or something like that.
It was
Yeah.
someone left the game open for it was a whole night. They left it open all night on accident, and they came back and they saw that, and yeah, it was. I mean, it's a standardized thing now that low percent speed runs of Twilight Princess takes upwards of like 36 hours.
Yeah, because you can just leave
You
the
just
game
idle.
running.
And the thing is if you're off, you spent those 12 hours waiting for nothing.
yeah, and you
Or
have
if you
to
do it
get
too
your angle
soon,
right. You
yeah.
have to get your
Yep.
angle right.
Yep.
There's so many things that come into account of it, but it's really cool though because that's
For
that
anybody-
is a very very unique situation.
Yep.
But like I don't know of any other game that has anything like
So
that.
for anybody that's listening or watching right now, in Twilight Princess, what happens? Just a quick recap: if you pick up an item from a chest in that game, the animation loop causes you to move backwards by a very small amount.
marginal.
Every time that animation loop happens,
You
which
hold
can
the item out in front of you.
yes,
And
which
it gives you a little dialogue box saying that you got this. But during that little animation loop that he kind of does like a little breathing animation,
Yep.
it loops back
Incorrectly. It is not a perfect loop.
and it moves you back by maybe like a pixel.
yep
at a
every
time.
every like hour,
Hour,
like,
right.
yeah.
Hour,
yeah, it's
something
very
crazy
minor.
long. It's
And
crazy.
you can use that to your ability to literally you
go
can
through
push your
walls.
character
Through
through
walls,
walls.
yep.
Yep.
Well, it makes you, in particular, where it gets used, it's to completely skip having to go way out of your way.
You can
to go
skip-
complete something.
you
to
can-
come all the
yeah,
way back.
you can skip. You can literally use that glitch to
The whole
skip
game.
like the majority of the game.
literally the whole game.
Yeah.
You know, I think a good way, as I'm sitting here thinking about this for my game, not to bring it
Yeah.
back to that, but you know, I think this gives me an opportunity, like an idea of allowing people that did exploit or mod or glitch to some degree still have their like moment of fame of like, here's 4 seasons and every 3 months a new season starts, and hopefully by the 4th season I've figured out the majority of the exploits. So anybody in those first 3 months, the world record that they have, that was that time, you know, this is this time. And then that way, those people that did find those glitches
History.
or exploits, yeah, their history and their legacy is still there. The idea of them doing it is still there. But similar to how in the Mario, it's like, no, this is the new version. This is how it was originally intended. We still respect and acknowledge what happened back here.
Right.
But this is the direction that we're trying to move in.
So does that make a good game?
I feel like that does make a good game
I feel
because
like
that's where I feel.
acknowledgement of
I
that.
feel like I'm acknowledging everybody in the
do the
game.
developers when they make that move is that in part what can make a good game?
That's a good move. That is.
I feel like
that
it's
is
a good move.
game.
'Cause I feel like
Your
I'm
developers
acknowledging-
are acknowledging its
So-
own communities and also pushing the game forward to be more fair for people that want to play it on
that
a
want to
normal
play it
level.
normal and then want to play it even in that regard.
Yep.
You know, it's acknowledging both sides and
For a,
respecting to both players.
For a single player game or like a campaign of like keeping those on record of, you know, they did it pre-patch or whatever, I think that is okay to go with, simply because like usually those kinds of exploits do take skill, and you know, okay, we fix it now, but I don't want to bring down what you worked on previously. And you know, as and then they're not punishing the player for doing it.
Yeah,
Right,
I
yeah.
feel like it's actually because, I mean, the best thing to fix your game is to have someone break it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
you
that's the
can't
only
fix
way-
it until
Right.
someone breaks
That's
it.
what white hat.
I was gonna
white
say-
hat hackers are.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, so it's just having a white hat hacker, you know, to actually show you this is what's wrong with your game, and then thank you, I respect you for that.
Here's money.
Here's your money, or speaking on that, it's like the guy that fixed the Grand Theft Auto for the PC.
Well, it's funny you say GTA because I was literally going to say, we had talked about this previously. I'm not going to get into it, but that was literally our experience when trying to launch a 5M server was finding what we launched the server.
Joining.
We had hundreds of people that had playtime hours before we launched to test everything out. And we had almost every detail ironed out, and it wasn't until way later on when we launched the game that people were finding other exploits to make a fuckload of money or completely dodge police or whatever, just exploits that we didn't plan for that were just fucked our game. Fucked our 5M
And see,
game.
the thing is you want those people to fuck your game so you know how to fix your game.
Before
Well, hope that's
But
the goal.
as a developer, though, when Justin and I were making this, I felt as a developer angry that like I was like, well, shit. Now I've got all these other community members on this game that are pissed because people figured out a way to exploit the game.
Yeah.
And now we're on damage control trying to fix it. And that's where there's like that balance, you know.
That's the thing. You should have we should have figured it out
finished it before we launched it.
But it's hard to say that, you know.
But that's the case.
We had a deadline to release.
Yes,
and that was.
This is something I wanted to bring up earlier when we were talking about like people releasing unfinished games, and it almost seems like game developers now are instead of paying a team of playtesters to find out what's wrong with their game and then fix it before it gets released, they just release it and let the public playtest it for them.
That is such
and then they fix it. No, I'm not defending it in any way, but like that's what it seems like it has become now.
Let the
public playtest it for us.
That's what Halo Infinite
and
did.
we'll fix it later.
Exactly what Halo Infinite did.
That is exactly what Halo Infinite did.
The beta for Halo Infinite and Battlefield and Call of Duty was all way more enjoyable than when the game came out.
I beg to differ to some degree because I was forced to play the beta of Halo Infinite on Xbox, and let me tell you,
on Xbox though,
you
had an issue outside of it, but once you got onto the game, you had some issues. But most
I was
of them
gonna say
outside of it.
Well, no. Like I'm saying, actually playing the game on console, I had multiple little issues that I came across that were polished and finished and taken care of when the game was released for its official release. Mm-hmm. But I'm like I said, even though I can have kind of to bring this back again, I can have everybody in the world play test my game, but I'm still kind of excited for seeing someone come in that's gonna break the living snot out.
You can have tens of thousands of people try your game, but you have one speedrunner try your game, and they could break it in ways that no one else
thought.
It's the definition of going back to Legend of Zelda in Ocarina of Time. There's a wall that you can't pass, and you have to do a very set amount of things before the barrier opens. But 15 years later after the game came out, a barrier glitch finally came out where someone found out a way to actually get around the barrier. And like it took that long for that to
and that's the difference is it wasn't happening within the first few days of the game being released that these exploits were found. It is rather years after the game has been released that, you know, when we look at those Half-Life speed runs, those aren't found the day or week or month or years. Those are
the Left 4 Dead fucking exploits that you were just showing me.
There's a brand new Left 4 Dead exploit
like just discovered?
that was just discovered to like save
so
like
much
a whole
time.
Campaign worth of time, but it was just discovered.
I want to try and paint an image for you guys. For anyone who's out there who knows Left 4 Dead 1, real quick image.
And Left 4 Dead 2.
And Left 4 Dead 2. But in the beginning of Left 4 Dead 1, you can imagine the very first on No Mercy, the run. You can imagine the map you're going through, whatever. The whole point is at the end of the whole story, the chapter, you're supposed to be leaving on the top of the Mercy Hospital. And there's literally an exploit that allows for players to literally
jump, do like a bunny hop technique that they can bunny hop off of each other to just jump all the way to the top,
end the mission, go to the next mission where then that person will then spawn on top of the roof already, and then just do everything from there. and it shaves off. What was it, like 2 minutes is the elevator ride, and that's just the elevator.
That's
ride.
just the. It probably shaves off at least like 3 minutes 30 seconds. But it's the point.
If you fuck that up though, I'm assuming it probably hurts your
But
time.
it doesn't matter though, because you just start over then.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
point. The
Yeah,
point
'cause
of
you're starting at the beginning. This is the beginning.
It's
of
literally
jumping.
the very
Yeah.
beginning of the game. And like,
yeah, it's not the very, but it's pretty early on. But the point is,
It's just so crazy.
Is here, this game came out in 2009, and this brand new exploit was just found, and that's the point. Is it wasn't found within a week. It wasn't left up to the community to report all the bugs and glitches.
Right.
The game was polished. It was done. It was complete. And then years later, these glitches and exploits and things were found. And then it comes down to the developer if they so do desire.
my comment on that is you also are talking about a game that was amazing from its conception
and
when it was
the
released.
engine that it's even running on.
And that's part of the reason why that exploit was found is because it holds a player base
It holds it.
this many years later.
That's the
because-
difference. People aren't going to go back and play certain games that were half-assed in the beginning,
Right.
To
Unless they
find a
wanna hold
glitch for it,
records.
anyways.
Unless they want to hold records, which is definitely a thing that people just randomly
But
find games.
that is
True.
that is such a
It's very
small
it's a very
Yeah.
unique
percentage of players.
But when a game is good, it's polished, it's finalized, it's released, it's got a great, outstanding community behind it that love the game that was released at release. Then the people that are continuing to go with it are the ones that find these crazy game breaking, and it's supported. Then it's supported.
Yeah, it's kind of and hats off to Valve because like of the stuff that
Always
they
hats
do.
off to Valve.
They don't dude. They are their own. They are such a separate entity in the gaming space compared to so many other game companies. I'm hiccuping out there right now.
I mean, they're one and one.
They're an anomaly. They're an anomaly
Yeah.
in the space.
Sometimes I try to imagine.
They found a way to be profitable without them having to make games, and because of that, they have the time to release games that when they come out, they are fucking
Knock out of the
amazing.
park.
Yeah.
Well,
Every time.
To talk about how great they are, I know you guys were just watching that video of like the difference between Left 4 Dead and Back 4 Blood of like it's the same team, but one was overlooked by Valve, one was not.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, that was
Max
huge.
I already know because you were.
Yeah.
What?
It's some of the same team.
It's 7.
Okay.
It's seven. There's
people of
seven
the same-
people
Yeah.
from Turtle Rock. To put it in retrospect,
Of
there's
the,
7
like-
people in Turtle Rock Studios that worked on the first Left 4 Dead.
Of the like 90 something people that worked on the game, or
It was
however
100.
many-
I counted. It was like 137.
Oh, I
or something.
actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
so it was 7
So it's
people.
not exclusively the creators of the first one. It was just 7 important ones.
It's hard to even say a minority, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know, man.
They had influence from that game.
No, there
is fair.
absolutely was
Yeah.
influence.
I would say influence,
100%
but like,
influence.
but from the creators of very far.
Yeah,
from
it's not the
far-fetched day.
creators of Valve created the game.
Yeah,
and
I'm
7
surprised they even let that go out.
I'm surprised it even happened. I can't believe it. You know what? I honestly, I bet Valve was sitting there and they were like
Laughing their
They
ass
saw the description. They're like, from the creators of Left 4 Dead. They're like, we'll wait and see what this looks like.
Yeah,
We'll
right.
see what
And, like,
this
don't
looks
get me
like.
wrong. Back 4 Blood looked great on paper. It felt great.
We
in the
had
beta.
fun playing it at
The
the time.
multiplayer was so good. But when we were sitting there, we're like, oh man, I can't wait till the game comes out.
They added nothing.
Nothing happened.
Nothing
when the
changed.
game came out.
Yeah.
Nothing changed.
Not only-
Everything.
not
the
only
game
that-
got easier.
not-
That's the only thing that changed. The game
Yeah,
got easier.
they brought in an easy difficulty.
Which is crazy because, dude, what I was talking to you about before, when I played that game on the beta with everybody that was here or whatever, I think I played a couple games with you.
yeah.
I played a couple games with
It's
everyone
everyone,
else.
yeah.
Dude, I literally did not lose a single match as long as I was with somebody that was
That you
like
could
Unless
communicate
three
with.
that I could
people
talk to
left
and coordinate
then
with.
You just
Yeah.
couldn't do anything with 1v4.
Because you can't you that game inherently, if you don't have communication with a teammate, you are at such a
Oh
disadvantage.
yeah, absolutely.
Because the sheer fact of being able to go, okay, team, we're gonna focus all of our points into one tier, and we'll all be that.
Then yeah, I mean,
It's
there's
game
so
over. It's
and
game
it's
over,
so
dude.
many other factors of like being able to just communicate. I'm going to be honest. That's one of the reasons that I have had a difficult time over the years of getting into Overwatch. Not because I think Overwatch is a bad game.
very team.
One of my best friends right here, Justin, loves Overwatch.
loved.
Loved Overwatch.
Loved.
But the problem is I hated the thought of playing Overwatch without him.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to deal with some people that that are possibly toxic, and I need to rely on these other people for other people to all do their part.
If the team doesn't do their part, you won't win.
We won't win.
No,
Yeah,
that's exactly
no.
what it is.
I get like that's bigger teams, but that actually kind of surprised me to hear you say that, seeing as how I know Rocket League is such a communication based, like for a really good game, you need to communicate with your teammates who's going where, who's going like back to goal, whatnot.
But Rocket League has the difference with Rocket League is if you're better, if you put a grand champion into a game with all diamonds, whichever team that grand champion's on is winning every time. It doesn't matter.
They can carry it.
That's where the difference is with that game, because if you're good at the game, you're progressing in the game.
Yeah.
You're not being held back, even if your teammate isn't the best.
You're only one DPS.
You're one.
Or you're
Yeah,
only
that's the
one
thing. If you're
healer, or
one guy
That's what I
on
meant
the
with the
team.
bigger teams is that
Yes,
Yeah.
the
you have to
bigger
rely on your
teams.
team quite a bit more.
The bigger teams get me. Plus, Rocket League incorporates a 1v1 game mode.
Yeah, you can't
What
do
if I
that
don't
back
want
to
any
blood.
teammates? I cannot have any teammates, and I can play it by myself against somebody else. And that's something, Overwatch doesn't have. Even Apex Legends, you see other games that it's very
any
diverse.
battle royale.
Solos.
Most battle royale, like Fortnite and
Dude,
stuff
Halo
has solos.
sucks for that right now, Infinite, because
Yeah.
like there's no penalty for leaving a match. Whereas you look at like Dota or any other normal esports game nowadays,
Yeah.
you get penalized for
If
like
you leave a match,
There
it's
should
not
be
okay.
penalties in general, and it doesn't matter what game you're playing. There should always be penalties for you dipping out of a game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even if you are playing a game before work, it goes a little too long, and you have to leave. That is not anyone's fault but your own that you made the decision to do it.
Right.
play a
Open
game
up the
without
game
You
enough
have
time.
to own up to
Yes.
that. You have
Yeah.
to be responsible for that. And if no one's held responsible, the community gets angry, and
Toxic,
that's literally
and then-
just that is the nature of what happened.
Yeah.
That expands out. People
I-
get
even-
angry.
That is the
Even-
unfortunate thing of Left 4 Dead. That's a huge thing with the game. I love that
Yep.
one, but there's can jump in and out of a game at any point. There's
Right.
nothing that's holding you to the game.
Unfortunately, that is a prime example of one of those games.
I think
as soon as you are on a losing team on versus, everyone leaves.
Everyone leaves,
I
and then
think
everyone's
the,
just like, whatever. I don't care
and there's no
anymore.
penalty.
And
for
there's no
that.
penalty. They're like, I'm just gonna find a new one.
Yeah,
Right.
and so for that, there's no point for you to like stick it to it and try your best. to stay.
Let's come
Because-
back.
Because in Dota, if you start off your game in Dota and because the early game in Dota is so important.
Yeah.
If you fuck up your early game in Dota and you just decide to leave, you won't be able to get in a match for another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Same for Smite. If like hypothetically, let's say a fluke accident, because it's actually happened. Let's say you're sitting there playing with your friends and your internet goes out and the game ends while you're not in the match. You're banned for 30 minutes.
Yeah, because you can rejoin. Same thing with Dota.
You
say
can
they
rejoin,
give
but
you-
the game, you have to be in the game when it ends for
yeah.
you to not have
Yeah.
a penalty.
Yeah, same thing with Dota. If you're not in the game when it ends, that's when you get the penalty.
Mhm.
If you do DC and you get back
Same
in,
thing.
you're good. You're
Same
fine.
thing in Rocket League. If you leave Rocket
but that's
League,
good sportsmanship.
yeah, that's
get back
good.
in the
Get
game.
back in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even when you pop open the game, if like your game crashed and you open it back up, and Rocket League gives you a little notification
Rematch.
like
Right.
Rejoin.
you left your game. Would you like to rejoin?
Yep.
Halo right now, Infinite has zero support for if your game crashes or anything happens, you can't rejoin the lobby, and that sucks. Thank you so much, Yana.
I don't know,
Appreciate that
man.
fireworks.
It's just
thank you.
it's just the nature of games nowadays. I feel like is going in such a bad route that I'm really happy to hear that changes like non-yearly releases of Call of Duties and companies being changed over to other like head companies. Like I think it's a positive thing because it's going to change.
But look at what Activision has been doing the last couple of years, and look at how much it has not been helping them.
Yeah, but it's a good thing that Microsoft
In those-
is going to kick them in the ass and
yeah,
hopefully get them to
yeah,
do something.
because for
That's what they
$69
need.
billion, if you think that Microsoft's going to allow for those
They're not
companies to
fucking
release
around.
trash games, you're on some other fucking planet.
Right.
Because-
Literally, unfortunately, Blizzard has the potential, and Activision have the potential to get tossed into Microsoft's list of half-assed, unfinished products because if they don't deliver, it's going to happen.
But look at so Microsoft has all these game studios right now. They've been buying out Mojang and Square Enix
Rare.
and what was the other one?
Rare's one.
Rare's
Rare,
one,
yep.
and then they also bought out it was Square Enix and another one that went with them.
Capcom?
I don't know, but regardless of that,
I don't think it's Capcom.
these game studios don't release games on like they all take a good amount of time to release these games, and they have the support from Game Pass and Microsoft for them to take their times.
A great backbone too.
Yeah, and everything they release, even the Age of Empires games, fan-fucking-tastic every time. And Age of Empires releases a game once every 8 years, for crying out loud. And every time they do it, they're great. And it's because they can afford to take the time. And I think Activision is in this weird limbo right now where they're like, we don't make enough money to be able to take this much time on a game, but we're also so big and we have all this fat on our company that we have to pay all these people where we have to release a game to be able, and they're just in this loop of get something out so we can make a little bit of money to pay everyone, and they're just trying to stay afloat, and they can't do it anymore.
They're trying to beat Fortnite and Apex.
Yeah, and
the Warzone did great at that, but
and PUBG, you should keep that.
And PUBG more recently. PUBG was definitely not in the cards until it went free to play.
Yeah, that's also true. PUBG literally took their
the
platform
cards. They
and
fell
they're
out of the cards.
They're like, all right, we're a little bit down on sales. Free to play. We are now the top battle royale once again.
Once again. Now we're right back at it.
It was that one move.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if they beat their record, because I don't know if you guys knew this, but the peak gameplay of players on Steam ever was PUBG. I don't know what the number. I think it was 36 million or something.
Right now.
It was something crazy, but it makes me wonder if they beat their record again, because
do you know when it actually went free to play? What approximate date? Month? Even a month?
This month. It was this month.
It was this month?
Yeah. December last month, it was not free to play.
But I'm going to be honest. I mean, truth be told, I know that we have a big nostalgic taste for a lot of games, and we have a lot of memories for a lot of games, like we were saying before. And we do have these pretty high standards on games. January 12, 20. Thank you. But I'm actually, outside of AAA titles releasing games that aren't fully at least polished to the point of major exploits, let's see it. Let's hear it.
Okay, so they gained an additional, I will say they gained 43% based on the previous month from when they went free to play. But they are...
Yeah, but their player base, I imagine, wasn't pretty high. At that
it was high
last
and
month.
They are... Let me get an approximate here. They are... Their peak all-time was 3.2 million players.
Wow.
And when they went free to play, they were at 700,000.
That is a huge cut.
Yeah.
So
that's not as
and
much.
that was the peak. There is a clear peak when they went free to play, and it went way the fuck up. But even with that peak, at the top of that peak at free to play is 700,000 from 2.3
And if
million.
you think about it, because we've been the last time
or 3.2 million, sorry.
Last time we were on the podcast, we were talking about how things happen over in China and how things got more strict over there.
Yeah, on gaming.
That was 75% of the amount of people that were playing that game.
Yeah, big Chinese market on this.
Yeah.
And now
Huge.
I'm
And
pretty sure if
now-
you're under the age of 18 in China, I think it was you get 3 hours a week on video
it was
games.
3
Wow.
hours
A
a week.
week.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
just something
pretty-
that happened within the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm. So that was probably a huge factor.
A huge factor of it as well.
And who knows? Maybe it wasn't, but facts.
It probably
matter.
heavily factors in.
So to bring it back, kind of to conclude what I was saying before, we all, like I said, have this heavy nostalgic for all these games for different reasons. It could be Halo CE on PC. It can be, playing Halo 3 with friends. It can be whatever. It can be a wide variety of things. I'm not really happy with games being in this state where they release it, AAA titles, and it's not even remotely done. There's clearly very big problems. But for the most part, I'm actually kind of happy with the state that most games are in. I'm happy that games aren't so much necessarily being taken to the point where they're pay to win. We've kind of stepped away from that a little bit.
I think pay to win has been very much stepped away.
Yeah, I feel like it's more pay for cosmetics and styles. I'm okay with that. I really enjoy the fact that we're getting more cross-platforms, cross-platform play.
Crossplay is
games.
huge. Yeah.
That's huge, and I'm really happy to see that games are now reaching a point where they have a longevity in mind, where like Halo, this is our 10-year plan with this game, and this is what we want to do for the next 10 years, not even Call of Duty even realizing now its own mistake, we can't keep releasing a game every year.
Yep.
So I feel like a lot of these things have been coming to the conclusion of game developers, and games are in a weird time, but I feel like we are moving towards a more appropriate style.
So our takeaway for today's podcast is keep playing games. Get those games. Keep playing with your friends. Don't cheat. Maybe find an exploit.
Don't
here or
cheat.
there.
Do some exploits.
Don't
Have fun
Yeah,
with
do
it.
a glitch or two.
Make
Don't do
memories.
third-party software cheats, but
Yeah.
you find an exploit, have fun with it.
Yeah, enjoy it while it
Just-
lasts.
just
Because it's
don't-
not going to be there forever.
Just don't exploits on multiplayer.
Chill on them.
Yeah.
If you find them, be the hero of our time. Be a white hat hacker
Exactly.
and show everyone the cheat. So that way,
So it gets
It's
shown.
fair.
it's fair.
It's
Everyone
fair.
knows.
Or at the very
and-
least, make some funny content with it.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
Do something like that so we can all laugh at it, and then open it up to everybody.
Right.
and obviously, keep playing your games, keep buying them, because if we don't keep buying them, they won't stay around. And we got some pretty cool stuff coming down the pipeline, especially after the Game Awards. A lot of really cool new titles that are coming out soon.
I'm hoping this year will be the year.
I don't think
that
it'll be
I'm
this year. I don't think it'll be this year. I think it'll be next year.
I mean, you're probably very right that next year is going to be.
I think at the end of this year, start of next year, we're gonna get some awesome stuff coming out.
But I think there's still going to be some pretty cool stuff coming this year.
Oh,
because
100%.
I feel like this year is going to be the year of indie developers.
I was gonna say, I agree with that.
I want and It Takes Two is a great example of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait. That's another good game that we didn't talk about that
Yeah,
leaves
but
you
I'm gonna be
emotionally.
honest, it's EA, and it's just hard to talk about
Also,
it.
yeah,
it's hard
so-
to talk about it positively because it was a great game. It was an absolutely wonderful game, but I feel like EA just has a bad back on it.
Well,
The name, it's the front, it's the name.
If anything comes down to it, the one thing is that developers now realize, I think, especially the last couple of years of how gaming has been, is where this
2 years.
where this state has been, and I think there's gonna be some good turnaround, and I cannot
Yeah.
wait to see all the awesome fucking shit that's gonna be
I
coming.
feel
out
like
in the
a lot
next-
of the things that gamers have been complaining about have been heard and have been
I need
taken a
an exploit to
direction.
be able to buy a GPU.
Someone
Alrighty
please send a
then,
link.
guys.
Right.
Alrighty, and I think with that,
I think
that's probably gonna
a
wrap up our
of
podcast here.
Episode 6, yeah.
Yeah, we're about 2
Hey, yeah.
hours, so
Guys, thank you all so much for coming out here, and big round of applause for having our special guest, JamminJoey. If you want to drop any information about who you are, what you are, and where your people can find you.
So
yeah, if we want to watch that game you're making, and people they have questions about your game, can come and ask you about it, not here but on your stream.
yes, you can
Yes.
find me at JamminJoey what is it? .tv. Well, it's caffeine.
Caffeine.tv.
Caffeine.tv/JamminJoey. Outside of that, I'm on YouTube.
Jamming with
find-
no G.
Jammin with no G. That's JAMMINJOEY. If I can
Jammin'.
Jammin'. We're jamming.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, you can find me on there. Can find me on YouTube if I can do the space in the name. I normally do the space in the name. If it doesn't work with the space, take the space out.
He's also pretty easy to reach inside of our Discord. He's got his
Yeah,
own
join our
channel.
Discord.
Yeah,
Check it
yeah.
out. He does have
He's
his
got
own
his own
channel.
channel for his
He is
stuff.
one of our original members of the Caffeinated Creators. He's a great
Woo-woo.
family friend, personal friend, and a great content creator. So make sure to go check him out on Caffeine and all his socials.
Caffeine, a wonderful Rocket League coach as well.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. But thank you guys for having me on here, and I can't wait until I can come back and be on the next one.
So that is
Silver Zambi.
JamminJoey.
Fallen Wolf.
and I'm Glitch Penguin. And thanks for being here, everyone. We really do appreciate it.
Much love, guys. We'll see you next time.
Keep jamming.
And keep gaming.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye
Bye-bye.
now. See you then.